Hello everybody, how are we all? Apologies that I'm even later than I usually am, and that I'm even late for my lateness. It is what it is. What is this that you've sent me? Do you need help getting your child to sleep? Take them to a Trump rally, boredom go. That is a bit of a banger, to be fair. To be fair. Also, is that person wearing a MILF t-shirt? Hang on a minute. Right. Zoom in. Enhance. Right. Firstly, it's funny that the kid fell asleep behind Trump. That is true. But also, is that parent wearing a MILF t-shirt? Has this person attended an event with their child wearing a Mother I'd Like to Fuck t-shirt? Has that happened? Okay. I mean, there's family values, I guess. I don't know. My friend has a mild t-shirt and it says, "Man, I love frogs." Nice. Nice. Well, anyway, that's not at all what I meant to talk about tonight. So, but thank you for that. Hello, everybody. How are we all? I was distracted. You may notice I'm very distracty tonight. I'm very distracted. Hello, everybody. That's entirely. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Dork Maggot. Yeah. Oh God. Did you see? By the way. Oh my God. Again, not remotely what I meant to talk about, but did you see his fucking lack of like chin going on? Where is it? Hang on a minute, I've got to find this. Elon Musk, right? Someone took like a profile picture of him at that rally, and like he just doesn't have a lower part of his jaw. Like the lower part of the mandible just doesn't exist apparently. Oh my god. Look at this shit. Look at this. Look at this fucking mess. Hang on a minute, I've got to zoom in. There we go. Right. Look at that shit. Like, he's so fucking unlovable. He's so fundamentally unlovable that even his own chin has divorced him. His own fucking chin has divorced him. Or maybe that's what it was. Grimes got his fucking chin in the divorce. I don't know.
Stop it. Get some help.
Maybe I should non-binary, thank you. I've seen other profile pics that look similar, so I don't think if it has been edited, it hasn't been edited massively. I have to share this outrageous conversation I overheard. While at Tesco for or gum, if you will, I crossed the car park and heard a little girl ask her mum, "Mum, is that a Volvo?" As she pointed at the stranger's car, Mum's eyes went wide. "No, dear, it's a Volvo," the girl replied. "It's the same thing." Then the mum added, "And please don't tell her you look like the colour of her vulva." Face shifts to a shocked expression. What the fuck? Did that actually happen to you, non-binary? Jesus Christ. Oh my word. Anyway, and thank you, Navigator BR, for resubscribing before we got going. Much love. Anyway, yeah, thank you, non-binary, for... Hang on. Navigator for 49 months. Good God. One away from a half century. Amazing. And thank you, non-binary, for 11 months. Much love. I'm very flighty tonight. I don't know if you can tell. I'm not very focused. I'm not very focused at all. Anyway, hello there, Bunny in the Box. I didn't agree to having Brummies in here, but apparently you are. So I'll just have to allow it because, you know, why not, I guess. Anyway. Yes. Cracking win yesterday in a tournament that I don't give a fuck about. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That's between me and one other person in chat. You're very welcome. Yes, so. What was I going to fucking say? Oh, I've totally forgotten. Doesn't really matter. Oh yeah, if you want to help me out financially, you can do so in the following ways. You can hit the follow button. You can subscribe. You can subscribe with the Amazon Primes. You can give subs to the community. You can do bits messages. 200 bits or more gets you a text to speech. You can do super chats for the Streamlabs link below. $2 or more there gets you a text to speech. I've got PayPal. I've got what else have I got? Fuck. Patreon. I've got a Discord, YouTube, Blue Sky, TikTok, Threads. Did I mention Facebook? Probably. Anyway. And if you're on YouTube, hello YouTubes. Hello YouTubes. Hello. Not after last time, Kev. After last time what?
The return of the sausages.
Some bits for you, less than 3.
Well, thank you, yes. Thank you, main captain. Not after last time, what do you mean? Super tiny, I don't understand. Most like Blues and rather go to Wembley for a real trophy. Yeah. I wouldn't mind, but like I also sort of I'm more interested in not being in the third tier of English football. That feels bad. It's not good. I mean, we could do both, I guess, but you know, greed is never a good idea. Anyway, yes. So if you're on YouTube, hello YouTubers. You can subscribe to the channel for free. You can thumb up the video. All helps with the algorithm. And you can what can you do? You can become a member for 99p, or gift memberships to the community, or do super chats, which I will read out. You called me Super Tiny Bob, and you said you were going to pee on my leg, dude. I do remember that. Yeah. It wasn't a serious threat, though. I promise you, if you give me money now, I won't say I'm going to pee on your leg. Oh, you people are monsters. Oh, you didn't need to do me dirty like this. This is unacceptable. Ugh, I'm not even going to save that and show Christy, so shut up. I'm not even saving it right now. You can shut the fuck up. Anyway, much love. Much love. Oh, we're on a hype train as well. If you're on YouTube, no, not if you're on. Well, if you're on YouTube, you can. But if you're on Twitch, bits and subs will help on the algorithm. And if we do get to level 2 of the hype train, we will. I will finger Elon Musk's drug receptors in his brain, because he has fried them with all manner of drugs in the last few weeks, apparently. Absolutely coked off his fucking nut. Also, did you see Elon Musk's mum come out and call him mentally developmentally challenged? That was quite interesting. Does explain a lot as well. Wow. There is a thing. That's okay, Bunny. If you don't have money, that's fine. Whatever. Not a problem. Anyway, what is a problem, at least for our old friend James Cleverly? We talked about this, the Conservative Party leadership contest. It is still technically going on. It has now reached the final stage, otherwise known as stage. The last round of voting by Tory MPs for to filter it down to the final 2, which now go forward to the membership. Now, the official result was James Cleverly gets kicked out. Right, he loses. The
return of the sausages.
He does lose that.
Give Kevin money, sausages, and a kitty bonk.
Thank you, Ava Astoria. Much fucking love to you. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, James Cleverly gets kicked out. Now, that's quite funny for a couple of things, right? Firstly, James Cleverly was the only reasonably sensible candidate, and therefore the only guy who could possibly have saved the Conservative Party, given the candidates available. Going forward are Bobby J, who is a fucking lunatic who wants to be like Nigel Farage, but without literally a drop of the charisma, and Kemi Badenoch, who is just a fucking mentalist, like a legitimate culture warrior, anti-transoid mental case. Either way, regardless of who goes through, whoever wins, sorry, the membership vote now, they're fucked. They are literally fucked. Can we get some Fs in chat for the Conservative Party? They are officially dude. Officially dude. What new? Well, I'll tell you what new. The way in which James Cleverly lost is like the funniest shit. Okay, there are two conflicting accounts of how he lost, because after the speech he gave at the Conservative Party conference, which was seen to have gone very, very well, he was ahead. On the previous round of voting, where Tom Tugendhat had been kicked out, James Cleverly was in the lead. James Cleverly had more votes than anyone, so it's a surprise he lost and came third out of the 3, right?
So the party members get to vote for either Poundland Boris or Lettuce 2.0.
Basically, yes, Kieran, that is precisely the case. Thank you for the bitty bits. So, the way in which James Cleverly lost, there are two conflicting stories. Either, independently of the James Cleverly campaign, people who supported him decided to flip their votes, thinking he was definitely going to get through, he was going to hoover up all of the lost votes from Tugendhat, and was going to win. So they wanted to ensure that the candidate they preferred got in. And that didn't happen, and he ultimately lost. So basically they tried to vote for, like, tactically for the person they thought James Cleverly could beat in the final round, and he didn't get enough votes and fucked it up. Right? Either that, or, and this is the more intriguing one, according to a senior Tory Member of Parliament, James Cleverly's campaign themselves lent votes to Bobby J, as I'm going to call him. Imagine if he becomes Prime Minister, I have to start calling him PM Bobby J. Fuck me. Anyway, lent votes, so in other words, told Tory members of Parliament to vote for Robert Jenrick, thinking they were going to hoover up all of the Tom Tugendhat votes, and therefore he and Robert Jenrick would go through to the final, because he thought that he had a better chance of beating Robert Jenrick than Kemi Badenoch in the final. And he fucked it up so badly that he actually lost. He purposefully, according to this round of events, he purposefully told people to vote for somebody else and then lost to that somebody else and the other candidate. The Tories are never more Tory, more peak, unbelievably peak Tory than when they are fucking things up massively. Not only have they made the worst decision possible for their long-term electoral chances, they've done so in the most incompetent fashion ever. It's fucking brilliant. And you know what? I'm here for it. What we need is malfeasance in politics to blow up in these cunts' faces. We've seen it a little bit with the gifts being given to Sir Keith, the drama star Llama Karma. And we've now seen it with James Cleverly playing fast and loose with numbers and fucking it up massively. The absolute bell piece. Fuck yes. Fucking legendary stuff. Can't wait. Refreshing water. Thank you also to Venusian Teapot for becoming a member on the YouTubes. Much love to you. It's a beautiful thing. What is this? I'm telling Kev you're not happy about cancelling stream. Hang on, what's this? Oh, this is your cat, is it? Okay. Firstly, absolutely adorable. Secondly, I'm telling Kev you're not happy about him cancelling stream. I don't know or care what a Kevin even is. Fair. That is the way cats operate. They care not for your human trivialities, Elliot. You should know this. Fuck yes. Anyway. There's other more American-centric stuff to come later. But for the time being, whilst we've still got some Britbongers awake, let us take a look at PMQs, because there are a few tasty little morsels in there. The Kia leader, answering questions from Parliament, hardcore.
Ganga Mahindra. Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, earlier this week, this House marked the one-year anniversary of the horrific attacks on October the 7th.
And not any other single possible terrorist attack ever in the world. Just that one for some reason. I wonder why.
Take this opportunity to reiterate that the hostages must be released.
I think you'll find, if someone is so generous to give bits, that actually it's not hostages, is it? It's sausages.
And I reiterate our call for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and Lebanon. Mr. Speaker, this week the government will deliver on our promise to the British people.
That is a stiff dick of poop, correct. Oh, hang on. What happened? Thank you, Wayward Historian, for gifting us up to 255. Much love to you. And thank you to Mr. Peter Wood. Mr. Peter Wood. Mr. Peter Wood. For continuing their sub/prime gift thing. Thank you. And now, if you resubscribe every month, I'll do the Mr. Peter Bone song for you every time, because why not, I guess. Thank you, Boy Pagan Man, with 100 bitty bits as well. Much love to you. It's beautiful. Also, yeah, Keith talking about making promises. This was funny. I don't know if you... By the way, this isn't me being pervy, right? just in case anyone's wondering why have you got a fat ass woman in the bookmarks, it's because of this, right? It says I'll give you 1,000 guesses and you will never guess what this is a reply to, right? And the person's put my backshot videos are available on OnlyFans. Fair enough. But the actual thing they're responding to is, and this is honestly, oh, it's been deleted. Oh, for fuck's sake. Anyway, the original video. Not video, sorry. The original post was about how a regional governor in Mexico had been in power for or been in office, I should say, for 2 weeks, and they'd been murdered by a drug cartel. Literally beheaded. And they replied with that. That's amazing. What the fuck? But anyway, I don't do my pervertry on fucking Twitter. I don't know if I'm going to do perv stuff. I don't do it on Nazi sites. Where is it? Where's Keith doing his thing? He made a promise, a solemn vow. If I can find... Oh yeah, by the way, look how much Trump fucking despises Elon Musk. Look at that face. That is the face Trump gives to people he hates. That's the face he was giving to the fucking judge in that in the lawsuit, in his deposition. That's the face. That's the face he gives to his children that he hates, obviously. Where is he? I definitely, hang on, here we go. Right, so he's going to bring a vote on assisted dying. So in other words, mercy killing, euthanasia. The joke I do regularly about people flying to Switzerland, etc. Right? It's a thing that isn't legal currently in the UK, but there's going to be a free vote in Parliament, i.e. not a party line vote. So they can vote with their conscience. There's no pressure being added by the party. On a piece of legislation to do with assisted dying, on euthanasia, right? Now that in of itself is absolutely fine. I think it's an important issue, and I think it should be a matter of conscience. But rather than framing it as, I made a promise to the British people, or I made a promise in the general election that I would do a thing, and I'm going to stick to it, no. He says, I made a promise to Esther Ranson before the election that we would provide time for a debate on a vote on assisted dying. What the fuck? I promised Esther Ranson. There, I should probably explain for Americans. Esther Ranson is a very old TV presenter. I don't know who the equivalent would be in America. In all honesty, just some old-ass TV presenter who's been around since the 70s. She does TV presenting, that's it, right? She's no one of any real massive import, but a cultural staple of the country, that sort of thing. A person whose name is known, albeit, not that well, since 1993. Anyway, so all the promises he made to the Labour Party during his leadership campaign, fuck that. He's not going to honour any of those. All of the campaign promises he made during the general election, not going to promise those. Not going to follow through on any of those. All of the stuff about how he wasn't going to be corrupt, definitely not going to follow through on any of that. But the promise he made to Esther Ranson, that is a promise cast in blood and stone. I will not break a promise to Esther Ranson. That's important. That means something. Fucking stupid cunt. Fucking hell. True Bunny in the Box. Yeah, the Wrexham game was fucking dope. Or at least the atmosphere / result were, anyway. The first 20 minutes were a bit fucking rough, but whatever.
Of the biggest upgrade to workers' rights in a generation. The Employment Rights Bill will ensure work pays, it'll forge a new partnership with business and reset the dreadful industrial relations that have cost our economy and our NHS so much in recent years. We are also preparing for the International Investment Summit next week, bringing hundreds of global CEOs to the UK and unlocking billions of pounds in investment. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Mahindra.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The commitment of £400 million in funding for a new hospital at Watford General was one of the many brilliant things of the previous Conservative government. And my good friend, the former Member of Parliament for Watford, Dean Russell, did, and would have been life-changing as well as life-saving for so many of my constituents. Why is the Prime Minister...
How many games have I been to? I'm a season ticket holder, mate. I've been to every single one so far. Well, all of the league games. I don't go to the fucking cup games. Fuck that.
Minister cancelling this funding commitment and spending billions of pounds giving pay rises to train drivers instead.
Prime Minister.
What's that got to do with anything? They're not taking money from your hospital and giving it to train drivers, you dopey prick. God, Conservative analysis of everything is just so shit. They're such pathetic creatures.
Because the promise of 40 new hospitals didn't involve 40, didn't involve hospitals, they weren't new and they weren't funded.
Sarah Combs.
One of the biggest issues in my West Bromwich constituency is poor access to GP services. Our GP satisfaction rate is 15% below the national average. So can I thank the government for their focus on improving this situation and...
Don't know about you, Bunny in the Box. Does this person sound like they're from West Bromwich? Don't know about you. I don't think Sarah Coombs, MP, is necessarily a local resident of the West Bromwich area. Like, you lose your accent a bit when you go to London, but like, come on now. This estuary bitch has never set foot in West Bromwich in her life until presumably she was parachuted into the fucking the constituency 4 months ago.
Ask the Prime Minister what the government's doing to make sure that everyone in West Bromwich can actually see their GP.
Well, I thank her for a question.
Let's take a look, shall we, where Sarah Coombs is from. Let's have a look. Sarah Coombs MP. Sarah Coombs MP. Does she have a Wikipedia? She does. Sarah Rose Tatum Coombs went to Jesus College, Oxford, naturally. Previously worked for Tom Watson as the head of policy and communications. So, right-wing prick. Who isn't from West Bromwich in the slightest. Amazing. Literally amazing. Does it tell? Can I find out any actual information about her? Where she's like originally from? Where she grew up and stuff? No, I don't want to sign in, thank you very much. I can't find out where she's from, but she's clearly from like fucking Kent or something, I don't know. Middlesex. He made a sequel because the first one did so well. What the fuck? Oh, Metatron. You were wrong so much in the first video. Why have you made another one? By the way, can we get some 707s in chat? Oh, God, I'm going to have to watch that shit again, aren't I?
The most visible sign of failure of the last government was the NHS. And we are going to expand the role of community pharmacies and accelerate the rollout of independent prescribers. We need much more care to be delivered in local communities to spot problems earlier. And we'll train thousands...
Hey, I grew up around Kings Norton. I will not have bad words said about it. Well, sort of close to Kings Norton anyway.
Thousands more GPs. We were elected to change the country, and that means getting the NHS...
Actually, my dad was caretaker at Kings Norton Senior School as well. Little fact for you.
It's back on.
Is that doxing? Maybe.
Its feet. And my honourable friend, the Chancellor, will have much more to say about that in the budget, about fixing the foundations of our economy so we can put money in people's pockets, fix our public services and rebuild Britain.
Leader of the Opposition, Rishi Sunak.
Why is he still here? Go away.
Mr. Speaker, tomorrow the government will publish their anticipated changes to employment law. Given the weekend's events, when did the Prime Minister first become a convert to fire and rehire?
Okay, that's quite good. I mean, it's an oblique reference, and it's about as Westminster bubble as you can get, but it is still quite funny. He's referring to Sue Gray being fired resigning, obviously, as the Prime Minister, and then being rehired as a member of the House of Lords. So, yeah.
Well, I'm very pleased and proud that tomorrow we will publish the bill which will be the biggest upgrade of workers' rights in a generation. And that'll do two things, Mr. Speaker. Firstly, it will give people basic dignity at work. And secondly, it will help grow our economy, something that the last government absolutely failed on for 14 long years.
The Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, when he talks about security at work, once again, it's one rule for him and another rule for everyone else. But I know that not everything or everyone has survived his first 100 days in government. So can he...
Oh, by the way, thank you, Lord Fruitus, for resubscribing. I missed that one. In all of the hubbub.
Confirm that when he promised not to raise income tax, national insurance or VAT, that commitment applies to both employer and employee national insurance contributions?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as he well knows, I'm not going to get drawn on decisions that will be set up.
Won't people think of business? Again, the Tories have learned nothing. They've learned absolutely nothing. They're just going to carry on being the same cunts they always were. And actually, considering the next leader, they're going to be worse. Amazing.
Absolute commitment in relation to not raising...
Also, Bez has been spotted. Get your maracas out. Ding 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 ding. You're twisting my melon, man.
Tax on working people. He, of course, was the expert's expert on raising taxes. And what did we get in return for it? We got a broken economy, broken public services, and a £22 billion black hole in the economy. We're here to stabilise the economy, and we will do so.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I don't think even Lord Ali is buying any of that nonsense. But I'm not asking, Mr. Speaker. I'm not asking about the budget. I'm not asking about the budget. I'm asking specifically. I'm asking specifically about the promise he made to the British people. So let me ask him again, just to clarify his own promise. Does his commitment not to raise national insurance apply to both employee and employer national insurance contributions?
We set out our promises in our manifesto.
Bunny in the box. Do not even get me started. Dad's Lane Chippy. Legendary, mate. Fucking legendary. We used to live not far from Dad's Lane. Long time ago. Early 90s. But, yeah. Used to live on one of the side roads by Dad's Lane. Fucking beautiful.
We return with a huge majority to change the country for the better. And
I grew up playing football in Highbury Park, alright? Don't even test me.
My promises in the manifesto. But I notice it's question 3, and it hasn't yet welcomed the investment into this country. We've had in recent months £8 billion from Amazon for jobs across the country, £10 billion from Blackstone's jobs across the North East, £22 billion on carbon capture jobs in the North East and the North West, 500 million, Mr. Speaker, for UK buses in Northern Ireland. Well, we're...
Yeah, Highbury Park, of course, gifted to the city by previously lands of Highbury Hall. Highbury Hall, the family seat of the Chamberlains. Yes, those Chamberlains. Yeah. We don't talk about Nev.
In our economy, what are they doing? They're arguing about whether to scrap maternity pay.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy to welcome investments that this government negotiated, but when it comes to his answer on tax, Mr. Speaker, businesses across the country would have found his answer just about as reassuring as Sue Gray did when he promised to protect her job, Mr. Speaker. So let me turn. It's no wonder confidence is plummeting on his watch, which he didn't mention. But turning to another commitment, before the election, his Chancellor said changing the debt target in the fiscal rules would be tantamount to fiddling the figures.
Whereabouts did you live in Brum, Jacqueline?
Does he still agree with the Chancellor?
Prime Minister.
This is literally the man who was in charge of the economy. 14 years they crashed the economy. And what did they leave? A £22 billion black hole in the economy.
Oh my God, I'm going to get very, very sick of him saying £22 billion black hole. I would say take a drink every time you say it, but like, we won't have liver surgery available on the NHS soon, probably, because he's going to privatise it. So probably don't do the shot game, I think.
Unlike them, we won't walk past it, we will fix it, and it's only because we're stabilising the economy that we are getting the investment into this country. But I still notice he hasn't really talked about that investment. We're powering ahead with clean British energy. We're changing the rules to build 1.5 million homes and returning railways to public ownership. And they've got nothing to say about any of this.
Mr. Speaker, on debt, we left them the same.
Oh, you lived in Digbeth? Oh, no, you were not thinking of Dad's Lane Chippy then. That's miles away. Digbeth is right by the centre of town, basically. What's a good chippy round Digbeth by? There aren't many.
Second lowest debt in the G7.
Actually, that's not true at all. There are loads, but I can't think of any really good ones.
And as the Institute of Fiscal Studies have said...
Order. I will hear the Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, as the Institute of Fiscal Studies have said, it's hard to escape the suspicion that the government is attracted to this change because it would allow for significantly more borrowing.
Oh, it was Bonnie that said Digbeth, not Jacqueline. Sorry, apologies.
Now, his Chancellor previously said that this change, and I quote her words, would be fiddling the figures. So it is a simple question. Does he still agree with the Chancellor?
Prime Minister.
I see it's back to his old script. They've never had it so good. That didn't work so well at the election plan. Might be time to change that. I'm not going to get drawn on issues for the budget, just as he wouldn't when he was standing at this dispatch box. But meanwhile, we're investing, we're building the NHS fit for the future, back on its feet, better opportunities for young people and protections at work. After 14 years of Tory failure, we're giving the country its future back. And that's the difference that Labour delivers.
Mr. Speaker, it is clear he's opened the door to raising employer national insurance contributions, including on pensions, and fiddling the figures that he can borrow more.
Also, amazing. So literally the Tories' whole line of attack is, can you be nicer to business, please? Fuck me. Rishi, just fuck off to California. It would be better to have an empty space and silence rather than your questions.
And he talks about what he's achieved. Well, economic confidence is plummeting, growth is now stalling, and the UK's borrowing costs are rising on his watch, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, can I close on another important topic?
He might well be.
Because yesterday's intervention from the head of MI5 will have been sobering for the whole House. And not least his warning that Britain faces the most complex and interconnected threats in our country's history. Now, I know the Prime Minister will agree with me that we all owe our security services a debt of gratitude for what they do to keep us safe. But can the Prime Minister confirm that the forthcoming terrorism bill will give our security services the powers they need to tackle evolving threats and I can assure him of our constructive support on these vital questions of national security.
Yes, like undermining fucking eco-protesters or whatever. Cunts. God, I fucking hate Westminster.
In the same spirit that he provided that support to me.
Prime Minister.
Well, I can confirm that we will give the security forces and services the powers that they need, and I hope that is a shared objective across the House. They do an incredibly important job for us. But he talks about the economy. It's a real shame the party opposite can't simply... Well, he did at the beginning of his question a moment ago. Listen on. It's a shame they can't celebrate Britain's success under this government. Of course we've got to take tough decisions. But when investment is pouring in, as it has been in recent weeks, when the NHS strikes are coming to an end, when houses are getting built, we're delivering the biggest upgrade of workers' rights in a generation. It's time for them to accept that we're fixing the foundations. So whilst they fight amongst themselves in the comfort zone of unfunded promises, threatening to scrap the minimum wage, we're going to get on with the job of clearing up the mess that they made and making a better country that people are crying out for.
Adam Jogi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, cancer is hard on the patient and it's hard on their families, as my family knows all too well this year. Can I ask the Prime Minister to commit to doing all he can to improve research?
Who is allowing these school children into Parliament? I know he's got a beard, but come on. This human being has not lived. He should not be making laws. Fucking hell. Yes, I am being ageist, and what of it?
Early diagnosis and patient care for those with cancer. And will he join me in thanking the NHS staff who've looked after my dad in recent weeks and thousands of cancer patients like him in Newcastle-on-Lyme and up and down our United Kingdom?
Prime Minister.
I was sorry to hear about my honourable friend's
Unfortunately,
father,
yes, the jeering, the childish is absolutely a staple part of British politics. We are a very serious country and we demand to be taken seriously dressed as wizards.
We would all pass him our best wishes. Cancer is another example of the dreadful state the last government left the NHS in. The Darcy report published just a few weeks ago...
I am getting old. I am absolutely getting old. I look at the playlists or the set lists for... artist lists, right? For music festivals, and I don't know any of them. I don't know any of these fucking people. I couldn't name you a single song by them. I walked past a pair of police officers the other day in the street, and I thought to myself, these people, you can't have left high school yet. You're still in secondary school. Why are you not in? You're in the wrong uniform. You should be in a child's fucking uniform. And yet that person could have arrested me. Fucking mental. Yeah, I'm old. And what?
That some cancer standards have not been met since 2015, and no progress was made in diagnosing cancer at stage 1 and stage 2 between 20...
Hello, lesbian hot sauce. Everyone going for a lesbian hot sauce immediately. What do you mean Kamala is cooked? In what respect is she cooked? The polling seems pretty good. I mean, she's shit, but the polling seems pretty good for her.
2013 and 2021. So I'm really pleased that we've just announced £6.4 million research network developing new AI software to identify cancer early. We will get the NHS catching cancer on time, diagnosing it earlier and treating it faster.
Hang on, sorry, I was... That seems really bad, like I was laughing at cancer. I mean, technically I am, in that that's Keir Starmer with a microwave on his head, right? So technically I am laughing at cancer there, but in a very different way than I wasn't laughing at him talking about cancer. This is a callback to the previous show where we watched a man polyfill his own head inside a microwave and have to get the fucking fire brigade out. Honestly, when dumb shit like that happens, they should force them to pay, right? Like, if you're a YouTuber who does some dumb shit and you force the fucking the publicly funded services like the police or fire brigade or whatever, or the NHS fucking ambulances to come out there, right? You should have to pay that shit. You're making money out of this absurd bullshit. Why is the taxpayer underwriting your nonsense? Fuck that. I think that happens, to be fair, honest. Does it? Oh well, if it does, then fair enough. If it does, then good. And that's, well, okay. That's on a similar theme. That's then the original video with Keir Starmer's body cut into it. It's a very similar idea. Thank you, Elliot.
Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Davey.
Sir Ed
Thank you,
Davey.
Mr. Speaker. Across this House, we all agree that we need to get our economy growing strongly again so we can improve people's lives and raise the money for our public services. Liberal Democrats believe that one of the best ways of doing that is to improve our relationship with our European neighbours on things like trade, and I welcome the fact that the Prime Minister has made this a priority in his first few weeks. But what I just don't understand is that he's ruled out negotiating a youth mobility scheme with our European partners. This could be so good for young people, for businesses, and...
Just want to point out also, this prick and his party voted to not put VAT onto private schools today. So when he talks about, like, youth mobility and stuff, get fucked, mate.
For re-establishing that relationship. So will he reconsider this?
Prime Minister.
Well, he's right. We do need a better...
Now when I see Ed Davey, I think of Takeshi's Castle. Or, I suppose for a more Western version of that, Wipeout. That show. Yeah. You can literally see Ed Davey running across those big red balls. Actually, that's a weird phrase. People who have seen the show will get it.
Deal with the EU than the bad deal we got under the last government. And that's why I was very pleased to meet the President of the Commission last week to talk about how we can improve on the deal. In our manifesto, we had clear red lines about the single market, customs union, freedom of movement, and we will negotiate with those red lines in place.
Davey.
Well, I'm disappointed about the youth mobility scheme. Maybe we can come back to that. But he's right to say one of the many problems for our economy coming from the dreadful Brexit deal was the red tape that's been put on businesses. Now, there are many examples
Thank
of that,
you, non-binary.
Mr.
I've seen the
Speaker,
thing.
but a
I
new
don't think
example
I'll
came
play
to-
it because I'm not sure if it's copyrighted or not. But thank you, yeah. Okay. For those who don't know what I'm talking about. Wipe out big red balls. Here we go. So it's this thing, right?
Will Small Joe be the first to cross them?
So this, imagine Ed Davey
Come on, Ball.
asking a question about youth mobility.
Well, she's on to the first one. Safe and steady. Oh, she's on to the second. And she's on. She's on. Oh, this is getting tricky now. The pressure must be unbelievable. Oh, this is amazing. Joe is our first contestant to get this far. Come on, Joe. Oh, I can't believe this. She's actually on the fourth ball. She's on the fourth ball. Yes!
Now, fuck off. I want to see some cunt fall in.
5. At 5, it's Headband Dan.
Go everywhere as fast as possible.
Come on, it's like at the Olympics. You don't watch the gymnastics to see, like, good gymnastics. You want to see some fucker fall off or break the leg or something.
In a line, and you just watch me go.
Get some! Great plan. Come on! Great execution.
Oh, shithouse.
I mean, that bit's fast and straight, and that bit, and no.
He's like, he crashed into the metal bit at the bottom. Ouch.
4. At 4, it's the return of East End Ben. I don't really know what that means.
Oh, love it.
Bish, bash, and finally, bosh.
Yeah, we get it. You're a middle-class wanker. Fair.
At 3, another return, this time for handsome Ollie, who provides us with this head-twanging classic.
Ooh.
His head actually vanished. Briefly, it was gone.
That was brilliant.
That's the job you want, giggling like a twat on the sidelines while people get hurt. Fuck yes.
And he's about to have the mother of all faceplants. Yes.
Oh.
Wow, against all odds.
Oh, spines aren't supposed to do that.
Gravity has never been that funny.
Best big balls wipeout.
He's a grumpy student and describes himself as rude, arrogant, and driven purely by greed.
He's a wanker, brilliant.
I give you Grumpy David.
Nearly.
What a dive! Thank you, Grumpy David, for showing the country how to do a double belly bouncing flop with perfect comedy dive. Watch out for him in London 2012.
Oh wow, this is old. This is pre-2012. Fuck. Okay. Anyway, that's Ed Davey. That's basically what he does now. He's taken time off from his actual career as an extreme sports enthusiast to ask some questions in Parliament or something. I don't know. What's that? Hang on a minute. Hang on. Supertown wanted Davey to become the second largest party. To be fair, I kind of did too, just because I want the Tories to get wiped out. But, like, not because, you know. Not because I think he's any good. He's just better than the Tories, albeit slightly.
To me earlier this week, and it affects fishermen in the Falklands, who are otherwise having to pay huge amounts in tariffs to be able to sell to be able to sell their produce into the European market, or sail under a Spanish flag. So when the Prime Minister renegotiates the trade deal,
they could always sail under an Argentine flag like they should. Oh, what's that? What's that?
Can you remember the overseas territories? And
there you go, the Liberal Democrats casually making jokes about Britain keeping hold of territory it illegally acquired and was keeping against international law. The liberal face of imperialism, everybody!
And ensure that British citizens fishing off the Falklands can sail proudly under the Union Jack.
Prime Minister.
My uncle nearly lost his life when his ship was torpedoed defending the Falklands. They are British, and they will remain British.
Firstly, your fake act of like, I'm a hard man, no one cares. Secondly, the thing he just said there is a lie. Unless his uncle is Argentine, that didn't happen. There was precisely one ship that was torpedoed during the Falklands War, and that was the Belgrano, which was, as the name would suggest, an Argentine ship, which was sunk to the death of many, many Argentine sailors. Anyway, his uncle definitely was not torpedoed during the Falklands War, so tough shit, I guess. Just lying, just blatantly lying. Yeah. Why is that important? It's important just because he lies. That's the point. Like, he lies about everything. He's like a pathological liar. He had to move on from his dad being a fucking toolmaker, so he's invented an uncle that got torpedoed on a British ship that never got torpedoed. So, yeah.
And sovereignty in Gibraltar is equally not to be negotiated. Of course, we will do everything we can to make it easier for all businesses to trade more freely so that we can grow our economy. I'm very, very clear about the Falklands. It's personal to me.
John Pierce!
Oh, it only matters. Again, he knows he's so full of shit and won't follow through on any of the things he promises. He now has to say it's personal to me, because that's the only way people can possibly believe he might actually follow through with a promise. He doesn't give a fuck if it's personal to you. He doesn't care if you give a shit about these things. Yeah, here we go. So, number 10 has now clarified Keir Starmer's comments after it emerged that no British ship was torpedoed during the Falklands conflict. He says that he misspoke and intended to say that his uncle was aboard a vessel that was bombed, which is the least possible. At least possible. I don't know if it's true, and it wouldn't surprise me to find out that no such uncle ever even fucking existed. Knowing Keir Starmer's weird fucking family tree of, like, invented characters. This Walter Mitty cunt and his fucking family of multifaceted gimps. But who knows?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Conservative-led Derbyshire County Council are proposing to cut adult day centres and care homes across Derbyshire.
Yeah.
My constituent, Pat, was diagnosed with dementia in 2016. The Jubilee Centre in New Mills is a lifeline for her and her family. She always returns happier...
Tory cunt spotted there in the background. Hello, mate. How you getting on, champ? You well? Wakeford? Get fucked, mate.
Less confused and less anxious. And for her partner David and main carer, it provides vital respite while she's there. They do not know how they'll survive without it. Will the Prime Minister join with me in asking the Conservatives on Derbyshire County Council to think again and oppose these devastating cuts to older people and their families?
Yeah. Well, I'm
okay, well, Prime Ministerial anal sex correspondent Kieran Saunders is now apparently also our Prime Ministerial uncle military service correspondent as well. Starmer meant his uncle's ship was bombed, as he was referring to the sinking of the British frigate HMS Antelope. Fair enough. If his uncle actually got, like, shipwrecked or whatever, like, that's okay. Fair enough. But either way, it shouldn't take, right, his uncle being bombed in a fucking ship in the Falklands for him to give a fuck about these things. Yeah, here we go. Was a Type 21 frigate of the Royal Navy and that participated in the Falklands War and was sunk by Argentine aircraft. Were there deaths? I assume there were probably deaths. Doesn't say, actually. Doesn't say. So presumably there weren't any deaths, which would be quite incredible for a sinking of a ship, but there we go. Anyway, yeah, so apparently that was a real thing. Cool. But either way, it shouldn't take a personal stake in the situation for him to care. Because that's why he's okay with freezing pensioners, because none of his old relatives need the money, so he doesn't give a fuck. Do you know what I mean? If I remember correctly, no naval deaths for us. I think there must have been naval deaths when the HMS Sheffield was sunk, right? I'm pretty sure there must have been. Because that was a big ass ship, wasn't it? I remember, well, I don't remember as in I wasn't alive at the time, but I remember it being a big deal. It was some anti-ship missile and founded under tow in 1982. I'm trying to say. I mean, I don't suppose it matters, and it's possibly a little bit ghoulish, I guess. But it would surprise me to learn that we didn't have any naval deaths in the Falklands War, because we did have several ships sunk. Oh, here we go, loss of life, yeah. Of the 281 crew members, 20, mainly on duty in the galley area, died in the attack. Yeah, that makes sense. 26 to 63 injured, most from burns, smoke inhalation or shock. Only one body was recovered. The survivor was taken to Ascension Island. The wreck is a war grave and designated as a protected place under the Protection of Military Remains Act 1986. Well, there you go. You know, I would have thought it would have been impossible, surely, to have several ships sunk and no deaths. That's madness. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, the Royal Navy confirming it as what I just told you. Yeah, mad shit. Thatcher really was a prick, man. Fucking hell.
Shocked to hear of the impact on Derbyshire Council that he's just described to a proposal.
It didn't need to be this way. None of those men needed to die. She knew she knew roughly what was going to happen, and we could have just had what should be the case anyway, a negotiated settlement with the Argentines whereby we have dual sovereignty over the waters and the land. That protects the British citizenship of the people that live there and voted to remain British, but also would rid us of one of our trickier problems with the entire fucking hemisphere. But no, instead, let's play Billy Big Bollocks and swing our dick and cause a fortune. And have the fucking 3,000 people that live in the Falklands Islands determine our entire foreign policy with the continent of the Americas. Fucking stupid. Really very stupid. Anyway.
In cutbacks on adult social care, and councils across the country were at the front line of the last government's ruinous economic failure. It's left people who rely on services counting the cost. Now, there's no quick fix to this, but we will provide councils with more stability and certainty through multi-year funding settlements, ensuring councils can plan their finances for the future properly, and we will work with local leaders to deliver this.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Any sense of unease that though he is the Prime Minister of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, there are over 300...
Jesus Christ. Jim Allister, traditional unionist voice. I've never heard a political... I don't even know what that political party is particularly. But I've never heard a political party's name that more revolted me. In my fucking life. Oh, God, the thought, those three words put together make my skin crawl. Let's take a look together, shall we? Traditional, what the fuck were they called again? Traditional unionist voice. Traditional unionist voice, TUV. Whatever the fuck that... Hang on now, give me the Wikipedia. Fuck it, I'm not going to their website. Is a unionist party in Northern Ireland. In common with all Northern Irish unionist parties, the TUV's political programme has as its sine qua non... What the fuck is that? Essential action. The preservation of Northern Ireland, blah, blah, blah. A founding precept of the party is that nothing which is morally wrong can be politically right. Okay. It formed in 2007 by Jim Allister after he and others had recognised the DUP... So had resigned from the DUP. So they're a right-wing splinter group from the DUP. The reason for the split was the DUP leader Ian Paisley, the fascist, consent to the South Andrews Agreement and his willingness to become First Minister of Northern Ireland alongside deputy ministers from the Irish Republican Party Sinn Féin. So the traditional unionist voice, as I surmised from the name, from the 3 words of their name, are so odiously right-wing that they thought that Ian Paisley, the man who I mentioned the other day actually, who became famous for A, making himself a reverend by creating his own church and making himself a reverend in that church, hilarious, but secondly, became famous because he started a campaign called Save Ulster from Sodomy in response to the British government's liberalisation of crimes of homosexuality in the 1960s. So they are so right-wing that they think the Save Ulster from Sodomy guy is too progressive. That's where they're at as a party. And to be honest with you, I didn't even need to go to the Wikipedia page. I probably just could have told you that. Because that name tells me everything. Traditional unionist voice tells me everything I needed to know. Complete cunts. Like the worst fanatics imaginable.
Areas of law in Northern Ireland where the legislation is made in a foreign parliament. Has the Prime Minister...
All of the laws in Northern Ireland are made in a foreign parliament. In Westminster. Boom.
Any ambition of recovering UK sovereignty over those 300 areas of law, and thereby...
Did they get saved? No, Ulster was not saved from sodomy. It is perfectly legal to have bomb sex in sodomy. It's literally you have to, otherwise it's not really sodomy. But you can have the gay sex in Ulster. You can. So he failed. Al's in chat for the failure of the Save Ulster from Sodomy campaign. It was lost. It was a 1-0 dub for sodomy. Sodomy 1, Ulster 0.
Restoring the equal citizenships of my constituents and ending their disenfranchising in respect of making laws that govern much of their economy.
Prime Minister.
I thank him for raising that issue, which of course is an important issue.
I didn't even listen to what he had to say. That's how little I respect the guy, based on the name of his political party. I didn't even listen to what he had to say. Fuck him, who cares? It was somewhat rubbish, blah blah blah, unionism. Fantastic, sit the fuck down, you cunt.
The Windsor Framework was negotiated by the last government. We supported it, and we continue to support it, and we'll work to make sure it's implemented.
Yes, sodomy is compulsory now. Yes. Everyone does sodomy on alternating Tuesdays.
Live in poverty after housing costs are taken into account. So I welcome the government's commitment to tackling child poverty. But we all know that every year of poverty...
Again, doesn't sound like she's from Hackney. I know people from Hackney. She does not sound like them. I don't know many dames. Well, actually, I know several dames, but that's a different matter. In Hackney or Shoreditch.
Has a long-term impact. So could the Prime Minister tell us that the Welcome Child Poverty Task Force, which is underway, could he tell us
Rachel
when he
Reeves
expects
has
that
died
to
here,
report,
yes.
so we can see action?
Well, I thank my honourable friend for a very important question. It is appalling that child poverty went up 700,000 since 2010. And after the last Labour government did so much to bring it down, and tackling this is at the heart of our mission to break down the barriers to opportunity. The task force is developing the strategy to reduce child poverty, and it will be published in spring of next year.
Shabana Raji.
Yeah, Elliot, that's the thing. History is a very complicated thing, right? I'm loath to pray in aid Kipling, especially when discussing imperialism. But I think the Kipling poem about if you can face, victory and defeat and treat those two imposters exactly the same, or whatever the exact phrasing was. You need to not get too one side or the other with it. when it comes to history, if you've got family that have participated, and I think probably to one degree or another, if you're in Britain, everyone's got some family that participated in empire. You don't need to feel personally ashamed about any of that. You don't even need to feel ashamed on behalf of those people, because they existed in a time and a framework in which those things happened. But similarly, you don't have to celebrate it either. Virtually every relative you know from, say, 50 years and prior, you would have probably despised. You didn't know them, you never met them, whatever, but you'd have probably fucking hated them. And they'd have probably hated you. Most of them were unspeakably racist. Many of them unfathomably sexist. Let alone transphobic or whatever. They wouldn't even been aware of many of those issues. Fascism was very popular amongst huge sections of Western political thought. Colonisation and imperialism had been going on by the British for 500 years at this point. So yeah, like, you don't need to feel connected to them, but you don't need to feel ashamed of them either. It's a thing that exists. You don't have to ally yourself with these people in any real way. It happened. History happened. Come to terms with it, you know. My great-great-uncle died to keep Belgium free. Well, yeah, there's some cool shit as well, don't get me wrong. Like I say, many of the people who... Vogel says my grandpas were cool, they shot at Tommy's. Oh no. It reminds me of that Jimmy Carr joke. He says, my grandpa was treated terribly during the war. The Germans treated him absolutely awfully. They passed him over for promotion in the SS time after time. Delightful. Anyway, let's try and get through some of this, shall we?
Speak for Leicester.
The Prime Minister's decision to impose VAT on independent schools strips hard-working families of the choice for what is best for their children.
Go fuck yourself.
While risking job losses for teachers, increasing class sizes, and squeezing state school resources to their absolute limit. With these
We could always invest more money in public schools. Publicly funded schools, that is.
impending threats, what actions is the Prime Minister taking to mitigate these effects if he is not undertaking an impact assessment to understand them?
Look, I do understand that many parents across the country save hard to be able to send their children to private school because they have aspiration for their children. So does every parent who sends their children to a state school. And the problem we have is we don't have enough teachers in key subjects in our state secondary school. Now, the party opposite may be prepared to tolerate that. I'm not. And that's why we've made this change to fund 6,500 teachers. And they chunter on. But they have to answer the question, which none of them are answering. If they're not going to make this change, are they going to leave our state secondaries without the teachers they need? Or are they going to cut the education budget by £1.5 billion? Which is it?
You could always just tax the rich. That is an option as well. Tax the rich and invest that money in things that make people's lives better. You fucking neoliberal ghouls.
Mr. Speaker, Gloucester has a proud military history from the Battle of Imjin River to RAF Quedgley and the Glorious Gloucesters. In fact, almost 10% of Gloucester households are home to a veteran. So can the Prime Minister update this House on what this government is doing to support veterans, in particular how he will meet his promise to make sure that every veteran in Gloucester has a roof over their head?
Prime Minister. We owe an enormous debt to all of our veterans, and it was a great honour to announce at our party conference that our plans to build new homes across the country will ensure that homeless veterans are at the front line of the queue for new social housing, recognise the incredible sacrifice and contribution that they make. We will repay all those who served us and house all veterans in housing needs, ensuring homes are there for heroes. We're also ensuring veterans have access to support, including with mental health and employment.
Sir Julian Smith.
Mr Speaker, special education needs budgets in North Yorkshire and across the UK are under huge pressure. Could I ask the Prime Minister...
You're a Tory, you don't get to complain about this. You just don't. I mean, literally, David Davis is sat behind you. Eat a fucking cock, mate.
And the Chancellor, as they prepare for the budget, could they...
Also, it doesn't sound massively like he's from Yorkshire either, just saying.
Look carefully...
Shall we see? Shall we see where Julian Smith is from? We already know that Rishi Sunak from Southampton represents a seat in Yorkshire. Where's this prick from? He was born... Oh, actually was born in Cheshire, which is sort of northwest, yeah. I mean, it's nowhere near Yorkshire, but it is at least vaguely northern. Residences. He lives in Solihull, which is literally down the road from me. And where I went to high school, technically. So there's that.
At how increased funding and changes to the funding formula could make a massive difference to thousands of lives of children across the country.
Well, I'm grateful to the honourable member for raising this issue, which is of real concern across the country to many parents who are concerned about the provision. And I do agree that children with special educational needs and disabilities are being failed, with parents struggling to get their children the support that they need and deserve. And we have to change that. I'm determined to raise standards for every child so they succeed in education. And we will work with the sector and across the House where we can to deliver on that mission, which is very important for many parents who will be watching this today.
Luke Murphy.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can I welcome the Prime Minister's focus...
No, not Solihull. I'm not posh. Fuck's sake.
...on economic growth, and I look forward to the International Investment Summit next week. One area where constituents across the country want to see thrive is their local high street, and the Prime Minister will know from his own visit to the top of town in Basingstoke that it has huge potential, but it's not what it could be. Could I ask the Prime Minister...
Have we got a puberty picture of Kev? That's a very weird way of putting it. Do you mean, is there a picture of me when I'm like 10 or something? Because that is possible. When you say, do we have a puberty picture, do you mean, did I take pictures of my genitals every day for 6 years as the hair grew and then I put them together as a video on YouTube? No, I did not do that. Although I should have done. That would have been fucking amazing.
What support this government will give to ensure that high streets across the country are able to grow and thrive.
I'd have had to have like had a premonition that YouTube was going to exist at the time of that, but I should have done.
Prime Minister. Well, I do remember that visit, and here's the new political vibe: invest with Labour or decline with the Tories. Very pleased to read out the investments we've had in the last few weeks. We've got a big summit coming up on Monday, hundreds of CEOs coming, and I'm confident we'll be making further such investment announcements in weeks to come. And that is what will fix our economy, stabilise our economy. It's because we're taking the tough...
Yeah, Solihull's quite posh, yeah.
...decisions. The investment is now flowing into this country, fulfil on our obligation to raise living standards across the country.
Helen Morgan.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. The A483 runs through my constituency from Llanymynech to Oswestry, and it's one of the busiest and most dangerous roads in the constituency. And national...
just to say, when I said put up L's in chat, it means loss or losing or something like that. So I said put up L's in chat for Ulster or whatever because they lost. Anyway, it's just a thing. So it's L for loss and W for win. It's a silly meme.
Highways say that the crossroads at Llunkus is the worst accident black spot in the Midlands. They've got a proposal to improve the situation, but Treasury rules place a higher value on road speed than they do on the lives of North Shropshire's residents. So will the Prime Minister look at flexing these rules to back national highways and back my residents to give them the safe road they deserve?
Prime Minister.
Well, I thank the honourable member for raising this, and it's obviously a really big, important issue in her constituency, and it is vital that as we invest, we do improve safety and deliver better journeys for drivers. National Highways, I think, is continuing to study.
There is a funny picture of me drunk at university. I will see if I can find it on Facebook as we listen to this. There is a picture of me mental drunk at uni.
The case for safety improvements to the A483 and will continue to do so. Decisions, as she probably knows, will be set out under the third road investment strategy. And I know that the Roads Minister will have heard her representations, and I'm sure will agree to a meeting if that is what you'd like.
Phil Brickle.
Bolton Hospice provides vital services to individuals with life-limiting conditions. Yet, like hospices across the country, it faces a difficult financial future and is reliant on fundraising, including the kind donations I was able to raise when I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro last year, and from the campaign run by the local paper, the Bolton News. Can the Prime Minister tell me what steps he is taking to ensure hospices like the one in Bolton are put on a sustainable financial footing?
Well, look, can I first congratulate him on his efforts in relation to the local hospice. We want everyone to have access to high-quality care and end-of-life care. And that is why we require all local NHS bodies to commission services from hospitals to meet the needs of their local populations. Most hospices are charitable, independent organisations who also receive funding for providing NHS services. We have inherited a huge problem with the £22 billion black hole, but nonetheless, we are determined to move forward on this.
Mr. Speaker, since the signing of the Belfast Agreement in 1998,
God.
more people,
another one of them.
People in Northern Ireland have now sadly lost their lives to suicide than those that were killed during the 30 years of the Troubles. Would the Prime Minister agree that the challenges with poor mental health in Northern Ireland, some of which are directly related to the violence of our past, is a unique and pressing legacy of the Troubles? So would he therefore commit to tasking his government to work collaboratively with the Department of Health in Northern Ireland to explore how these issues can be properly recognised and resolved?
Minister. Well, I thank him for raising this important issue. I do know firsthand the deep impact that the Troubles have had on so many in Northern Ireland, and we must ensure that those with mental health issues receive the support and the care that they need. Now, public services obviously devolved in Northern Ireland, but we will work with the executive and leaders to support them in delivering better outcomes, which is why my Secretary of State...
I feel like just saying, no, I'm not reading all that. Free Northern Ireland.
Health spoke to the Health Minister in Northern Ireland in the first week he was in the department, and I'm sure that he'd be prepared to follow up should the honourable member wish so.
Joe Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In my constituency of Hexham, frightened parents and their families having to fight tooth and nail and travel extremely long distances to secure fair treatment and full education for their children. Can the Prime Minister outline the steps that the government will take to improve outcomes and results for SEND families, particularly in the most rural parts of the North East?
Prime Minister.
Well, I thank him for his question. I think this reinforces that the SEND provisions were a failure of the last government, particularly in rural communities. This has come from both sides of the House. It's a really important issue. We have a duty now to pick this up and to ensure that all children with SEND receive the right support to succeed in their education, and we will continue to do so.
David Davis.
On the assisted dying private members' bill, the government's quite rightly staying neutral. But the real issue with that bill is the time constraints of private legislation make it very difficult to get it right first time.
Declare your interest as an old person. I didn't find that picture I was thinking of, but I did find a very funny picture that I did on one of the face apps. Fuck yes. This is what technology was invented for. Absolutely glorious. Fucking knob. Anyway, moving on.
If we get this wrong first time, the consequences are too terrible to contemplate. In 1967, the government of the day gave the government time to allow David Steele's abortion bill to go through. Would the...
Okay. Pardon me. I did a sneezy poo. Thank you, Andreas, with... or Andreas, I suppose, would probably be a better pronunciation. $2, who says, "Hey Kev, are you for the reunification in Ireland?" Yes, I am. Absolutely, yes. The border in Ireland is the sea. You leave Ireland when your feet get wet. That is all. Registered interest. No, I wasn't literally... Oh, God. I was doing a classic old joke. So the register of interests we've talked about, where they have to put down things that they have like a financial interest in. So if they're getting paid by like a member of the farming lobby, and then they talk about farming, people can factor that in, right? So the joke being, because he's so old, he should declare his interest in wanting to be able to commit suicide legally. Is the joke. It was like when Ming Campbell was the leader of the Liberal Democrats, and he got up to talk about the pension, and someone shouted at him, "Declare your interest," because he was so old that he was a pensioner, was the joke. Anyway.
The Prime Minister commit to giving extra time.
True, but a medieval peasant would also have put me in a hole for the sodomy, so, you know. I'm okay with... Yeah. Live your life in a way that would make sure that a medieval peasant would have killed you. Yes.
Time, out of government time, to this bill to ensure...
And I promise you, Americans, both Goole and Pocklington are real places. I know they sound like they've been made up. You're probably thinking to yourself, there's no way a town called Pocklington really exists. They've made that up. That's a fucking place from Downton Abbey. It's a made-up village in Downton Abbey or something. It's not. It's a real place. I haven't been there, but I'm told it's nice.
Sure that we get this right first time.
Prime Minister.
I thank him for raising this question on a really important issue. And I do understand there are strongly held views across the House and on both sides and within both sides, if I can put it in that way. I do agree with him that it is important that we ensure that any change to the law, if there is to be one, is effective. Now, if this House gives the bill a second reading, it will, of course, then go to the committee as usual, which will allow that more detailed scrutiny. But we do need the discussion more broadly on this important issue.
No law. With shared prosperity funding drawing to a close and Cornwall having some of the greatest potential in Europe in critical minerals and renewable energy, it's time for our aspiring Celtic
Why would the minerals be so critical?
tiger to identify...
Again, Noah Law does not sound like he's from the West Country. Shall we have a look? Shall we take a look at where Noah Law is from? I'm going to guess it's not the West Country, because he doesn't sound like that at all. Another prick who's been fucking... been parachuted in, is he? Does he have a Wikipedia? He does have a Wikipedia. Oh, it says he was born in Cornwall and went to Clare Hall, Cambridge, and Christchurch, Oxford. He's so fucking posh, he went to both. He went to both Cambridge and Oxford, which is a rare combo. You usually go to one, mate, but apparently not. He worked for Finnish State-owned development financial institution FinFund in Finland and gained Finnish citizenship. He worked as an analyst for Fraser Clark, EY, and Deutsche Bank. He worked at the UK's Development Finance Institute, the British International Investment Law, and he's a chartered financial assistant and a wanker.
Much more strategic sources of investment funding which take us away from the short-termist begging bowl politics of the last decade. Will the Prime Minister meet with the Cornish MPs to discuss the future of industrial and social funding in Cornwall?
Minister. Well, my honourable friend is a proud Cornish MP and is absolutely right that economic growth must be spread across the country. It cannot simply be focused in the South East and London. And he'll have seen today, no doubt, the floating offshore wind task force.
Yeah, I saw this before. This is not a new claim, but it is still funny. That Prince Charles did not know what cling film was, and he shrieked at the first sight of it. He's now the king. Was freaked out by cling film, like a fucking horse. Literally like a horse getting scared by a crisp packet blowing in the wind. He's so skittish that fucking Cling film triggered him. Prick.
Report which sets out that the UK's industry can support tens of thousands of jobs, including huge opportunities, job opportunities in the southwest, and I will ensure that a meeting is arranged with him, with the appropriate minister.
Wendy Chamberlain.
When he was 5. No, not when he was 5. Cling film I don't think existed when he was 5. When was Cling film made? He'd have been well into adulthood at this point. Does it have a wiki? Plastic wrap. Just give me a year, you cunts. I don't fucking care about anything else. I can't see where that is. Used in the middle of the 20th century. Well, I mean that's pretty vague. Although I suppose he would still have been an adult because he was born in like the 50s, I think. I don't know. I literally can't see a year where it was invented. When was Cling film invented? In the 1930s, good God. Although it says there, Saran Wrap 1949 was introduced. Okay, so maybe he was a kid, I don't fucking know.
Affects thousands of children potentially across the UK. I first raised it in this chamber 18 months ago when I heard about the devastating impact from a constituent. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that it should not be for a charity to fund the
I wonder if she's related to the Chamberlains. Probably not, but...
pathway analysis and research that is needed to ensure that people and children get the support that they need? And will he help facilitate a meeting for me with the charity and the Department for Health?
Prime Minister.
Well, can I first thank her for raising this important issue and reminding the House of the impact that it has. And certainly, I think I can arrange that meeting so we can take that further forward. Thank you.
Murray Kelly-Ford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Constituents in the City of Durham are anxious about the financial situation at Durham County Council.
There is a Potterino, yes. The Lib Dem MP
Tories
has a seeing eye dog for the Americans.
Unfair funding formula has seen essential public services hollowed out, such as social care, whilst the demand is increasing. So what assurances can the Prime Minister give me that essential services will be restored and that a new funding formula will be genuinely a fair one, focusing on the needs of my constituents, especially the most vulnerable?
Prime Minister.
Well, she highlights yet another failing of the last government, because successive years of underfunding have left councils experiencing significant budget pressures, and that's felt by constituents and residents and individuals across the country. This government will clear up the mess, will get councils back on their feet. Partly, multi-year funding settlements will help to allow longer-term work to be done. But we recognise the importance of councils. They know their communities best, and with greater stability we can support them in ensuring the service that they provide get to the people that need it.
Caroline Downage.
Over 50 homes and businesses in Gosport found themselves underwater when Storm Pyrrhic hit. Some have still not been able to return to their properties, and it's now been upgraded to a 1 in 20 year risk. We still haven't had a decision from the Environment Agency about flood and coastal erosion risk management funding, which we've applied for, and despite requests, I still haven't been able to secure a meeting with his DEFRA team. Winter is coming. My constituents are worried. When is he going to grip this?
Prime Minister.
Is he going to grip this?
Well, look, this is a really important issue in terms of... Well, look, we're not going to take lessons from the party opposite. Year after year after year, we visited constituencies and areas which were flooded because there'd been a failure to take adequate protection. So I won't take lectures. What I said in the election campaign is that we would set up a flood resilience task force to get ahead of this. We will do that, and I'll ensure that she can get such further information as she needs.
Dawn Butler, final question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. October is Black History Month,
And the theme this year is reclaiming the narrative. I want to thank Mr. Speaker for the event that you will be doing in your apartments with the Temptations and the Prime Minister. The Temptations tribute band. And the Prime Minister will be having an event in number 10 this evening. Will the Prime Minister agree with me that it's important that we continue to have a debate on the floor of this House in government's time on Black History Month?
Prime Minister.
Well, I'm not sure, just at the moment, going to something that's labelled Temptations is quite where I need to go. Look, this is a...
It's funny because I find corruption tempting. Yeah, it's very funny.
Really important initiative. There will be... it is important it's being marked, and I'm very pleased to be hosting the event this evening, to which I think she is coming. Thank you.
Right,
absolute waste of fucking time as always, but at least we did have a laugh at that Save Ulster from Sodomy. But there we go. Anywho, this has been suggested in my stream suggestions folder on the Discord, which, by the way, you can go and follow if you wanted to, about as much as any video ever has. Right? Literally about as fucking often as anyone has, as any video has, right? And it's 2 hours long, so we might have to cut it up into several fucking pieces at this point. But I feel like if you really, really, really want me to watch this fucking video, we'll watch the video, yeah? Yeah? Okay. Let's have a look.
In April 2022, political commentator Russell Brand informed his audience that the establishment media were engaging in a deliberate strategy of cultural censorship against the general population. According to Russell, the media was constraining the attitudes of the public towards the war in Ukraine by artificially confining their coverage to two parameters: sanctions and escalation.
A consumer who only reads traditional press will see Ukraine coverage confined to the following parameters. Should we stick with just sanctions and sending arms, or up the ante? That sounds like there's an intended outcome. They're not trying to look at all possible outcomes. This sort of cultural censorship must be part of the intention of the state.
Russell went on to explain how this perfectly lined up with Noam Chomsky's theory of manufacturing consent, that the media were keeping the views of the public confined to a tiny box, so the public will become brainwashed and complicit with the agenda of the state.
Also, it fits in very nicely with Noam Chomsky's known support for genocides happening in Eastern and Central Europe. Just saying.
Chomsky's famous lessons is the function of the mainstream political media stratagem is to keep your views confined to a tiny little box. Oh, should it be sanctions or should we up the ante? What about like come to some sort of deal or something, some kind of peace? How about we reorganise our whole sanctions or up the ante?
Russell's critique was kind of funny, if this is your style of humour, confidently delivered and draped in the lexicon of human psychology, which all lent him the legitimacy of a seasoned expert, someone who must be analysing and dissecting media events in detail, and from all that experience is now able to pull apart the media's hidden motivations. For this reason, it's not hard.
Chomsky has been very sus when it comes to the Serbian Kosovan war in the 80s and 90s. Well, no, just 90s, yeah. We've been through it. It's not nice.
Hard to see how the average person who sits down to watch a Russell Brand video immediately starts finding his arguments very persuasive. It's only a skeptical few viewers who might hear Russell saying that the mainstream media are trying to culturally censor the concept of peace, an idea that is so banal that it's known to every 6th grader.
It's when everybody in the world makes friends.
And venture outside of Russell's orbit to check if that's actually what's going on. Is every legacy media outlet suppressing all mention of peace talks? And what they would find is this.
Prime Minister, first, your reaction to the prospect of peace talks between Russia and Ukraine.
The negotiations between Russia and Ukraine about how to possibly bring an end to this conflict, bring an end to this violence.
Russia said it was ready to resume peace talks with Ukraine. Some analysts feel it's really a ruse.
There was hope around the world, certainly, that something would come of these peace talks.
A third round of peace talks is underway today between delegations from both countries. Where are we with these talks?
A fourth round of peace talks now underway.
And when a war becomes pointless, there must surely be a chance of peace.
Do you think we could see a breakthrough in peace talks?
Well, it's important to continue these talks, and while everyone would like to see an end to the violence,
he is ready to discuss a deal with Russia.
Patrick, what's the latest on these talks?
Again, there is hope for what might happen at these talks.
Peace talks between delegations from Ukraine and Russia are underway in Turkey.
One of Russia's most notorious oligarchs is helping to broker a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine.
Again, with that breaking news and a potential sign of diplomacy or success from diplomacy in the war.
It's still very funny to me that Americans discovered the word oligarch only when it comes to rich Russians. Never ever rich Americans. Interesting.
On Ukraine.
Contrary to everything Russell told his audience, the concept of peace talks and making a peace deal was discussed extensively by legacy media outlets almost every day through late February, the whole of March, and early April, only fading from the national conversation when, in April, Ukraine and Russia publicly walked away from the negotiating table, with both sides citing concessions they wanted that the other side wasn't willing to give. The idea that the concept of peace talks was purged from our consciousness by the media in order to control our opinions, in context, doesn't make any sense. When someone tells you that a reality shift in PSYOP is being perpetrated by those in power, which can all be explained by an academic theory, that display of perceptiveness and intellect can be incredibly compelling. What happens when you realize that the phenomenon they've told you about isn't actually happening? It transforms from being an intelligent critique into an elaborate fraud. This is a guy who wants you to think he's clever for noticing something that you never had the chance to see for yourself. And you never had the chance to see it because...
Right, but he also wants you to think he's clever by using words like stratagem when he doesn't need to.
Because he made it up. Over the course of this video, we're going to be establishing Russell Brand as a political commentator who regularly misleads his viewers with grandiose lies steeped in intellectual jargon. And then, we're going to be reinforcing the point that Russell is a liar again and again and again and again and again and again. Eventually branching into a wider discussion about the political ideology Russell subscribes to, which requires him to assume a very liberal relationship with facts, evidence, and rationality. I want to qualify before we get properly stuck into this, that this video is not going to address the serious allegations made against Russell Brand in September 2023. I don't want anyone to watch this video and come away thinking that they can correlate the way a person might lie for political reasons in a YouTube video to a propensity for serious criminal misconduct. The two things are not the same. However, by proxy, we will be attacking a defensive argument that Russell and his followers have been wheeling out in response to those allegations. That Russell is being attacked by the establishment for telling the truth.
It's been clear to me, or at least it feels to me, like there's a serious and concerted agenda to control these kind of spaces and these...
No, it's because you're a rapist. Moving on.
Kind of voices, and I mean my voice along with your voice. I'm aware that you guys have been saying in the comments for a while, watch out Russell, they're coming for you, you're getting too close to the truth.
He's winning because he is a man who generates his own content under his own speed, under his own expense. Yeah, he is a threat to all of these newspapers.
GB News is so disgusting. It's like it's cancer pumped into your home. It really is.
The reason he is a hero to millions of people, millions who will be watching this channel, is because of his position on politics in the last 3 years.
It's time to look at the man behind the brand and work out what Russell's heroic, truthful positions are all about.
Drop. Ooh, production values. Very nice.
Now, before we start rattling around under the hood of Russell's YouTube channel, I'm going to say a few words of recommendation about an app that kindly sponsored this video. My first ever sponsor.
Yes, I don't think so. Quite a long advert, mate.
Get 40% off unlimited access to the Vantage subscription, which is what I use. When you subscribe, you're doing me a solid, of course, but you're also supporting an independent platform trying to make the news more transparent for people.
You can give me money as well, because I don't take sponsorships. So if you wanted to help me out, you can do so in the form of bits and subs, and the super chats, and the memberships on the YouTubes. By the way, I don't hate on people who take sponsorships. That's fine, as long as it's like a reasonably ethical company. Again, with the caveat that the only thing that's ethical consumption under capitalism is poontang.
The video, You Aren't Going to Like This, published in August 2022, is a great microcosm of the numerous ways in which Russell can turn molehills into mountains through exaggeration, dogmatism, and misrepresentation.
There are toxic heavy metals in your
Toxic heavy metal! My favourite type of music.
baby food, and the FDA and the government are going to continue to allow it. Can we trust them then?
In this video, Russell covers a CBS News report and some other related articles about findings that there are high levels of toxic heavy metals in baby foods. Here is
a sponsored bit. Thank you, Crustarmy, for your sponsored bit.
Information Russell relays to his audience. Point number 1. There shouldn't be any toxic metals in baby foods.
I'd like to propose a motion to have no deadly toxic metals in any baby food.
Point number 2. If there are toxic metals in baby foods, all of those products should be recalled immediately, all of the companies should be sued, and a completely new system should be established.
That is a very odd thing you've done there. You give me one bit and then 199 bits. So if you'd have put those two things together, you could have had a message read out by the funny voice person. But instead you've done two. Okay. Thank you, Crustronomy. I appreciate you. I fucking love you. Just ignore the Raytheon subscription. Shut up, JBeck. I'm not even sponsored by Raytheon. Don't even go to raytheon.com/KevKev's Massive Nuts and use the promo code or scan the QR code. Don't even do that. You won't even get 10% off on your fucking drone strikes.
Established.
Withdraw all those products immediately.
It's not even Drone-tober, so sharp.
Sue all of the companies involved and set up new systems for ensuring that babies are fed healthy foods, and if they're not healthy, at least not poisonous.
Point number 3. Because this hasn't happened, this points to there being a conspiracy between big food manufacturers and the FDA, who want to pump out cheaply made foods containing arsenic for high profit margins.
So I suppose what we're beginning to see is a picture where there is a collaborative relationship between the manufacturers of these baby foods and the FDA. Their products get cheaper to make, higher profit margin, and then they cut corners and somehow there's arsenic in your baby's dinner now.
Point number 4. This is part of a bigger push by powerful entities to keep the population sick and unhealthy so they become easier to push around.
Almost as if the people charged with looking after us would prefer it if we were sick and unhealthy because there's some matrix and network of business interests that would benefit from a population of people eating bad food, then being just all weak and vulnerable and easy to push about.
Or it's just cheaper. Literally, like these people who do this conspiracy thing, it's not that complicated. These fucking lunatics who do this QAnon like crazy shit. No, it's just greedy people being greedy fucking people. That it's cheaper to put arsenic in your food than to not do so. Or at least it's cheaper to not check. It's cheaper to build unsafe things if there are no repercussions for those things failing than not. And yes, there are like back deals done by companies giving money to politicians to ensure that there are no repercussions. Because it's cheaper to quote-unquote lobby a politician to change that law than it is to either A, build a safe thing / don't put poisons in food, or B, do that and then pay out the compensation that the people would be owed for the damage you do to them. It's a quid pro quo. It's not like some evil matrix of bloody, but no, it's just corruption. It's just greed and corruption based on the financial incentives that we should change. It looks like Russell Brand and Dave and Tucker Carlson stream from the same log cabin. Look, they're my favourite gay couple, so that's fine. They are not gay. Honest, the gays wouldn't have them.
Almost as if they don't want strong, vibrant people confronting power. My director doesn't look happy with this.
The lampshading with the...
Yeah, because you're literally doing the thing.
Tinfoil hat here implies Russell might be joking. But in another video, I found him making the exact same point very sincerely.
It's literally just brainworms to the left and the right here. Just wall-to-wall brainworms in this one.
Can't be that big food and big pharma are in lockstep to continually benefit from an unhealthy America.
So I think it's fair to assume that regardless of whether he packages it with humour or behind a veil of irony, Russell means what he says. In his mind, this is a conspiracy engineered by big food to weaken the population. Let's talk about the flaws in Russell's argument. The first one is that he has wrongly identified what is causing arsenic food contamination. He gives away the fact that he's misunderstood the issue at several points. Firstly, when he blames the problem on pre-packaged foods.
Right away, what that tells you is pre-packaged baby foods is not the best way to get food to babies.
And secondly, when he says that the correct amount of arsenic in our food should be 0.
I'd like to propose a motion to have no deadly toxic metals in any baby food. The agency's closer to 0 plan. That's the plan, closer to 0. How about 0?
If you look at this appendix of a report conducted by the Food Standards Agency, which analyses levels of arsenic in fruits and vegetables in the UK, you quickly see the problem with what Russell is suggesting. Cabbage contains arsenic. Strawberries have arsenic in them. Onions contain arsenic. These fresh fruits and vegetables have not come from the baby food packaging factory, so what's going on? The piece of information Russell is unaware of is that the arsenic is in our soil. Some arsenic is...
Yeah, arsenic is literally a periodic element. It exists. It's just a thing. It sounds scary because in high doses it can be very deadly. But in low doses it makes no fucking difference whatsoever.
Is naturally occurring in earth minerals, but a bigger part of it comes from insecticides which have been used by farmers since the early 1900s. These insecticides were banned in the...
I do contain arsenic, this is true. I'm in the pocket of big arsenic.
1980s, but it's going to take a long time for the arsenic to completely disappear from the soil. It's a problem all over the world, and we're all still growing our fruits, vegetables and grains in that soil. A lot of baby foods are made from rice, which is especially susceptible to arsenic contamination because it is highly absorbent and takes in a lot of water, minerals and toxins from the soil around it. Small amounts of arsenic are not going to harm you, you're probably eating it all the time, but larger amounts could cause risks for developing babies. So the FDA wants to keep
Who's developing babies?
Portions of arsenic within a reasonable margin. 0 is not a reasonable margin.
Do you want arsenic in your baby's food? I've got babies, here's my choice. No!
So your children have never eaten an apple, Russell. They've never eaten a carrot. You've kept them away from raspberries, have you? Fruit Gestapo. Springboarding from his initial misunderstanding of the issue, Russell leaps to the conclusion that big food manufacturers are to blame for this because they're chasing high profit margins.
When you find yourself in a situation where there's toxic metals in baby food, it shows you that there are certain food companies that evidently have a great deal of sway. As big food acquires more small companies, they're able to leverage more power through lobbying and control of the FDA, meaning that their products get cheaper to make, higher profit margin, and...
Okay, Elliot, I get that you're doing that as like the joke bit, but like let's keep a lid on stuff like that. I know you're joking, so I'm not gonna like ban you or anything, but like let's check that kind of stuff. I get to do edgy, you get to do less edgy.
More arsenic for everyone, and that's got to be a good thing, right?
We can see from a consumer report conducted in 2012 that this is not the case. From the proportions of inorganic arsenic found in the samples, you can see that smaller, family-run brands such as Cajun Country Rice and Della Rice contained more arsenic than all the rice analysed from Target, all but one of the rice brands analysed from Whole Foods, and a similar amount to the rice sold by Walmart. If big manufacturers cutting corners is the problem, why does their rice contain less arsenic than the rice sold by smaller brands? Russell's claims make no sense. Russell goes on to exaggerate the severity.
So ironically, he got the wrong brand. Because his name's Brand.
Of the issue by blatantly misrepresenting a statistic.
Baby foods are tainted with up to 91 times more inorganic arsenic than the Food and Drug Administration's maximum allowable levels.
Russell seems to have chopped off some words at the end of the sentence here. The article...
Hal Sparks calls him Rusty Trombone or the hippie Alex Jones. Basically, yeah.
Actually says 91...
But at least Alex Jones gives you the funny thing about, I will eat your leftist ass. And, stuff like that. He's funny with it. Completely unintentionally, I think, but he is entertaining.
Times more inorganic arsenic than the maximum allowable levels in bottled water. That reference to bottled water, which Russell removes from his quote, is essential to understanding the meaning of the sentence, because arsenic in water is far more toxic to humans than in food, and therefore water has a drastically lower maximum allowable level. If you compare the amount of arsenic you find in food to the maximum allowable level for water, of course, the proportions are going to be off the charts. The highest arsenic reading for any of the actual finished baby food products in the report was 180 parts per billion. Still higher than it should be, but not tantamount to poisoning a baby.
It doesn't matter where your baby's from. We'll poison the little bastard.
Finally, we get to Russell's closing flourish, which is to allege a conspiracy between big food manufacturers and the FDA to rubber stamp...
Who's making big food?
Dangerous products in service of higher profit margins.
In a sense, what you want to feel is that the regulatory bodies that officiate over the standards of products are operating in the service of ordinary people, of the consumer, of the public, however you see us. Not that they're just an agency that sort of rubber stamp and sign off products so that big food can continue to make profit with potentially dangerous products. There is a collaborative relationship between the manufacturers of these baby foods and the FDA.
If there was a collaborative relationship between the FDA and big food manufacturers to pull the wool over the eyes of the public and squeeze profits out of them, one thing we certainly wouldn't expect to see is the FDA publicly investigating their alleged business partners. And yet,
also, it's again, he's got this the wrong way around. The large food manufacturers give money to Donald Trump, who then hollows out the powers of the FDA to investigate large food manufacturers. It's not the FDA doing the thing, it's your mate Donald Trump.
Report that is the origin of so many of Russell's stats leads with the declaration that the testing of the baby food products was paid for by the FDA. So Russell is asking us to believe that the FDA are in this collaborative relationship with big food manufacturers trying to squeeze profits out of consumers, but the FDA is also like, I know, why don't we sabotage our secret business partners' profits by publicly showing everyone that their food contains high levels of arsenic? The FDA would have to be some of the most incompetent collaborators big food could ever hope to recruit. We also know from scientific studies that arsenic contamination levels are high in Suriname and Thailand, places where the FDA and American big food manufacturers have no jurisdiction. How does Russell's FDA...
I think they have some jurisdiction. Now, or not the FDA, but big food manufacturers definitely have their fingers in all of the pies all over the world.
Conspiracy theory account for what's going on over there? Are Thailand farmers in on this conspiracy too? Are they arbitrarily adding arsenic to their rice so America can...
Mu Deng is very pro-arsenic. Cancelled.
Look slightly better by comparison. There's an independent watchdog organisation called Healthy Babies Bright Futures, cited positively by Russell's sources, who confirm that their findings line up with the FDA's national testing. They also confirm that big food manufacturers are not the problem here, because homemade baby formula and family brands contain the same amount of toxins as baby food from retailers. They say that their criticisms of the FDA are not that it is at the centre of a baby poisoning conspiracy, but rather that the FDA's timeline for setting new guidelines is too slow.
Exactly.
And the FDA's industry-wide
The
target...
FDA is not like Tim Pool taking nefarious money from Russia or anything, okay?
It's not aggressive enough.
Almost as if the people charged with looking after us would prefer it if we were sick and unhealthy because there's some matrix and network of business interests that would benefit from a population of people eating bad food, then being just all weak and vulnerable and easy to push about.
We are, frankly, leagues away from having evidence of a sinister conspiracy, and yet none of that stops Russell Brand from confidently manifesting one through his commentary, whilst along the way to that conclusion getting every single fact of the situation completely wrong. He says said that arsenic came from the baby food packaging factory. That was bullshit. It comes from the soil. He said that big food manufacturers were causing the problem by chasing high profit margins. That was totally wrong. All rice farmers are affected by this. He directly hid bits of text to make the problem seem 50 times worse than what the data actually showed. He accused the FDA of being secret collaborators when they were the ones paying to test the products. And so when he gets to his allegations of a big conspiracy, it's like, why would anyone believe you? You've shown you can't even accurately describe or quantify the problem you're supposedly concerned about, not to mention a willingness to blatantly misrepresent journalists' work. We're also seeing the primacy of the us versus them narrative which permeates all of Russell's thinking. Russell points his finger at establishment institutions and then draws a neat line in the sand and positions ordinary people as victims on the other side. This allows him to indignantly play the role of the noble savior, fighting for their rights. The thing is, the more familiarity you have with the topic Russell is covering, the less clear that line in the sand between oppressor and oppressed becomes. We know from Consumer Report findings that rice from southern states such as Arkansas, Louisiana, Missouri and
There's no way you just pronounced it Arkansas. There's no fucking way. Do not even finger me on this one. What the fuck?
Findings that rice from southern states such as Arkansas, Louisiana, Missouri and Texas had
delicious
higher levels of arsenic than rice from literally anywhere else. So if the FDA and the government really wanted to get serious and protect consumers, they could impose tougher regulations on southern farmers and encourage
Why do you... I don't know why you... Who timed out Elliot?
Manufacturers to pivot their supply chains to safer places, perhaps California, or maybe even overseas to India, whose arsenic concentrations in food are much lower, much safer for consumers. But in entertaining that complexity, we immediately lose the black and white narrative of the common people versus the establishment. There are common people on both sides of this issue, American consumers on one and Southern American farmers on the other, with no morally vindicating policy.
That's from the south of the United States, not Southern American as in like Chilean or something.
That solves everyone's problems at once. And if the US FDA or government did place...
Well, non-binary, you can answer the question then. Why did you time them out? They asked, so you can answer.
Strict regulations on southern farmers, I have an inkling how Russell would react.
Edicts issued by centrist powers that bankrupt their farmers. They want you to be listless little hemorrhoids at the end of their
listless little hemorrhoids.
Mighty power.
The way Russell brazenly exaggerates the severity...
If they were hemorrhoids at the end of their power, does that mean their power is their anus? Ugh.
Of the arsenic contamination issue dishonestly misrepresents all the facts and so self-assuredly points to such an improbable conclusion with no evidence. This is a...
You needed to scrub their comments for safety. Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah.
Microcosm.
Hopefully you understand, Elliot.
Of the way that small lies are strung together into a layered mosaic on Russell's channel to justify grandiose storytelling about global corruption that Russell has managed to uncover. What should be a bureaucratic problem for food regulators in America becomes an establishment plot to poison babies. It all begs a question. Where is Russell getting his information from? If you were to ask Russell what motivates his research and political commentary, he would tell you that he is driven by skepticism, that he never blindly accepts information at face value. He
never blindly accepts a no when it's given to him. No.
Interrogates and investigates facts with a circumspect, discerning eye.
I'm always circumspect, sometimes skeptical. I always check on myself before I wreck on myself. Not a conspiracy theorist
Oh, God, he's a cringe motherfucker. I check on myself before I wreck on myself. He's like Elon Musk. Completely above his station and a fan of sexual assault.
Observe and question patterns and not to blindly accept information. You have to be open-minded and open-eyed.
I said and divorced. Okay.
About the reality of the information you're being presented. Just blindly and immediately accepting The narrative that you're spoon-fed no longer seems prudent. We want to interrogate and investigate the facts so that we can bring you truth.
Whenever someone ostentatiously self-identifies as a skeptic, I'm always eager to find out where they get their information from. Because as we all know, everything comes with an agenda. Unless you're some truth-seeking robot who only makes judgments after processing all available first-hand information, you have to rely on a network of other people to curate information for you. And how they choose to present things, what they highlight, what they leave out, all of that shapes your thoughts and perceptions as a reader. There are two main types of sources which Russell uses on his channel. The first one is legacy media outlets like The Guardian, Reuters, Washington Post, New York.
Yeah, they all do this. They're going about you can't trust the media and then look at loads of media articles as if they're proof of anything. Like, aren't they also part of the conspiracy? Why are you taking their word just because you think it backs you up on this occasion? Fuck off.
New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, The Telegraph, and the Daily Mail, amongst others. Typically, these are used for context and background information, with Russell pulling out a few statements to set the scene before he pins
Why is he doing a show in his bathrobe? That's just weird.
Down his main arguments. And then the second type of information sources which Russell uses are blogs and independent publications that are animated by
lunatics.
Establishment politics, the vast majority of which are very far left, and despite being something of a left-wing internet goblin myself, I had never heard of hardly any of these. To name a handful, we have Jacobin, Reclaim the Net, Common Dreams, Code Pink, FAIR, SharePost, In These Times, Mint Press News, Truth Out, and World Socialist website. Along with these Substacks and
you hadn't heard of those? Really? Okay.
Blogs of polemicist journalists with large
oh god, Clem!
Social media followings. People like Glenn Greenwald, Matt Taibbi, and Caitlin Johnstone. This second group of sources provides editorialized information that Russell takes wholesale and rebroadcasts to substantiate the main arguments and opinions that you'll hear on his channel. And this is something we'll go into more detail on shortly. Now, Russell makes a lot of noise about the importance of accurately sourcing information.
We check.
Thank you, James Holmes, for 5 gifted memberships. Thank you.
Our sources. We never say anything that can't be backed up. Our sources, which we link to in the description. This is not conspiracy. We'll show you all the data. We show our working up. We show our sources.
It'd therefore probably come as a surprise to viewers to learn that there is never any guarantee that the publication Russell is showing you on screen is the actual source of the information he's giving you. In this video, Russell sources a statistic about members of the US House of Representatives and tells his audience it's from a Guardian article written by Robert Reich. But if you go to that article in the Guardian, you will not find the statistic mentioned anywhere, because it's actually from an entirely different publication, written by an entirely separate author. In another video, Russell sources a quote about the civil war in Yemen, apparently from an article in Jacobin, but it's not from Jacobin, it's from FAIR. I watched a comparatively small fragment of the videos on
Why does he need to... That's so odd. That's so odd.
Russell's channel, but this kept coming up, and it was strange to me that the referencing would be wrong so much of the time, given the extent to which Russell leans on these sources to bolster his credibility, often saying, "Don't take my word for it, I'm just the guy from Forgetting Sarah Marshall. These are the words of this other, more reliable..."
Yeah, he was in that one film.
Person I'm quoting from.
So in the words of that person, who I assume is some sort of medical expert, that's not me, that's that person. That's not my word, that's a study. Not my counter-argument, the bloke that was in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Some bloke from Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Sarah Marshall. Sarah Marshall!
Aren't you the horse from horsing around?
However, the bigger...
He was also in Get Him to the Greek, but no one remembers that film, so... Well, no one really remembers Forgetting Sarah Marshall, ironically, but...
The realization I came to pretty quickly was that the way Russell credulously regurgitates information given to him by other people was not at all indicative of someone with the skeptical outlook that Russell claimed to have. Take the video, Ukraine War is a Resource War. In this video, Russell...
Yeah, he was in one with P. Diddy. That one has aged very well. I kind of feel bad for the other people in that film who aren't, like, pederasts or rapists or whatever. Like, because there's no way they're getting residuals from that show, from that film ever again. Because, like, that's never getting shown ever again. Ever. So you're just, those checks are gone. It's never happening for you. Like, there are people who play minor characters in Friends who still earn, like, a legitimate wage from the residuals just from them re-showing Friends today, 20 years later. But, you know, the getting to the Greek audience, that doesn't exist anymore. Yeah.
Brand extensively quotes from an opinion piece by Greg Coleridge in the online publication Common Dreams. Now, if you have even a passing familiarity with Greg's article, you'll notice that Russell's personal contributions to the topic, outside of the arguments already made by Greg, are extremely limited. Where Greg's article says Russia wants to control resources, so do Western nations, Russell follows up by repeating that exact same argument, but with a phraseology that lends itself to the interpretation he might have thought it up himself.
Russia's invasion.
Okay, I feel like I'm going to need to interject now. I don't want tension. I don't want tension between non-binary and Elliot. Let's just chill out. Let's stop. Stop. Why do I think people on the far left are anti-Ukraine? Because for some reason they're pro-Russia. A lot of them are coming from an America bad position, which, don't get me wrong, America is mostly bad. But just reflexively saying, if America is for something, I am against that thing, is very stupid. It's a very stupid thing to do. Yeah. You all should say arse more. Shut up! Fucking Vogel with your Austrianness. Austrianness. Yeah? Yeah? Okay.
Invasion is likely in part motivated by a desire to control those resources, and possibly, and forgive me if this sounds cynical, the Western response could in part be motivated by some of those resources.
Yeah, I know. We read the same article.
I was going to say, I wouldn't be surprised to hear that he was one of the people funded by, like, this Russian fucking bullshit. But then I'm thinking, like, he's rich enough that he doesn't need to. But then, so is Dave Rubin. And so is his fucking Beanie Boy. Like, they don't need that Russian money. They're just greedy cunts. Do you know what I mean? Thank you, Kieran. It says, Russell was in 2022's Kenneth Branagh's Death on the Nile. Was he really? Oh, I didn't know that. I haven't seen it. Although, of course, I have seen the... well, I both read the original. Shout out to the writer. And who's obviously very dead at this point. Agatha Christie is very, very dead. And to the original... I've seen the original Poirot series, Death on the Nile. With... oh, what's her name? The American actress. Is she American? Oh, I'm going to have to look it up now because it's going to annoy me because you'll have definitely heard of it. Poirot Death on Nile. Here we go. From 2004. Who's the famous motherfucker in this? Emily Blunt is in it. Is she American? Actually, I have no idea. She gets murdered. In the show, not in real life. That would be terrible, of course. No. Oh, for fuck's sake, what have I done here? Hang on, 1 second. No, she was born in London. Okay, she wasn't American, but she is famous enough. So, you'll have heard of her. Yeah.
Russell also contributes an abundance of rhetorical questions directed at the audience which hammer home Greg's points in a more combative way. So when Greg says that corporations directly benefit from war, Russell muses,
when a system benefits from war, might the system be biased in favour of war? Do you think that a system that benefits from war might, on some level, be pro-war?
When Greg says that Raytheon and Lockheed Martin...
I don't take money from Raytheon. I'm just saying Raytheon are cool and awesome in every way, and any criticism of them is fake news. All fact.
Martin are telling investors that war is good for business. Russell says
the money ends up with Lockheed Martin, Raytheon. Do you see a theme developing? Where's the money go? Where does it go again? Raytheon, Lockheed Martin.
Stop.
You see
Get Raytheon's name out of your fucking mouth.
a theme developing yet?
When Greg says that diplomacy isn't profitable, Russell says,
but the fact that it's not profitable and other outcomes are profitable might be a factor in the results that we're given.
By the time Russell's done, the guy has quoted almost every paragraph of Greg's text from top to bottom. And a major consequence of this is that Russell's arguments aren't really Russell's arguments. They're Greg's arguments. They're just coming out of Russell's mouth. There is no world in which letting someone else decide all of your arguments for you is going to be conducive to independent thinking. Nothing that Greg says gets challenged, and Russell doesn't disagree with or debate any of Greg's points. Instead, Russell blindly and immediately accepts the narrative Greg wants to spoon-feed him.
Just blindly and immediately accepting the narrative that you're spoon-fed no longer seems prudent.
Russell's not a skeptical person. He's just gullible to alternative strands of dogma.
Yeah, obviously.
Russell actually allows all his time.
I'll be honest with you, this video is not gripping me in the way that I thought it might. It's not bad, not in the slightest. It's pretty good information, he's putting it together well, but this isn't telling me anything I didn't already know. Now, you could argue that this isn't aimed at me, and that's fine, it may not be. But people in the, the stream suggestion thing seem to think that this was fucking awesome. So we're going to get through it in chunks, but it's not quite doing it for me. It's not tickling me right now.
Type 2 sources to put their spoons in his mouth and
He
feed
did
him
do a
whatever they
James
want,
Somerton, yeah.
because he sees them as inherently trustworthy independent voices, not beholden to moneyed interests.
That's why we need independent voices like this, and independent conversations like this one. An independent media, a media that is not beholden to sponsors.
So, is Greg Coleridge just an independent guy who has some opinions? Interestingly, no. Greg Coleridge was the director of an NGO called the American Friends Service Committee for over 30 years, which was funded by George Soros' Open Society.
He's literally a colleague of mine in the George Soros industrial complex. Well played, Georgie Poos. Well played, mate.
Society Foundation.
George Soros has weaponized his vast wealth in support of US foreign policy for several decades.
Also, the Rockefeller Brothers Fund.
The Rockefeller Foundation, which is the precursor to Bill Gates, he learned his game from them.
And also the British government.
Propping up the narrative that the government wants conveyed.
As it happens, these are all moneyed interests who Russell perceives as powerful vectors of what he calls a globalist corporatist agenda. One of the main narratives Russell advances on his channel is that globalist power.
Quite literally, Rashid Sunak is a small bean. He's literally fucking tiny. He can't have done anything wrong. You leave him alone. He's only a boy.
Our brokers like George Soros pay lots of money to organisations in order to perniciously influence people's thoughts and opinions.
What we're talking about here is power. Power. George Soros doesn't donate $128.5 million to the Democrat Party for no reason at all. He does it for a reason. What is the reason? Is the reason to assert control?
Bizarre as it may seem, given Russell's deep concern about George Soros furthering his agenda by donating to organisations, Greg Coleridge is not the only journalist from a Soros-funded organisation whose opinions Russell has.
Also, I wonder if he has quite the same annoyance at the way in which the Republican Party gets its funding. I don't watch his show very regularly because I don't tend to watch rapists. But I would be interested to find that out if in some point in the video he has statistics. I don't know.
Regurgitated to his audience. In the video, Stand With Ukraine, really? Russell shared substantial portions of an article written by Heidi Chow for Jacobin. Heidi is the executive director of Jubilee Debt Campaign, who lists George Soros' Open Society Foundation as one of the key investors supporting their work. In the video, we're not allowed to talk about this, Russell was happy to point his audience to an article in Truth Out.
Which is ironic because you're fucking talking about it. It's very similar to, I've been silenced. Well, how come I can fucking hear you then?
By Lindsay Koshgarian. Lindsay is the director of the National Priorities Project, who also received grants and funding from George Soros' Open Society Foundation. In the video Did Elon Just Expose This?, Russell championed an article published in Responsible Statecraft, which is a publication owned by the...
I don't think he was attacking. That's good information, by the way. To non-binary, it says American Friends Service Committees is a Quaker organisation. That's cool. So they're anti-war, they're pro-peace. That's dope. That's very cool. But I don't think in this video he was attacking that organisation. He was saying it was at least in part funded by the Open Societies Foundation, which is George Soros. But Russell Brand claims that George Soros is like nefariously blah blah blah. You know, he's full of shit. Is the point? Russell Brand's production company posts £3.7 million profit. Okay. But that's in 2022. I imagine it's probably not doing as much business now, given, well, things that we now know about him. Yeah. The video shows their work in Gaza. I thought I'd highlight it. Is it TOS? Because if there's like dead bodies and shit, I can't really show it, and I don't really want to show. Yeah, that's actually no. I thought it was bags of people. It's bags of food. Okay, yeah, they're doing good work selling. Not selling. Sorry, giving food and water to people in Gaza. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I'm not going to show the video though, just in case. But it's sad. Yeah. Okay, non-binary. I'm giving. Okay. I'm showing a lot of trust in you right now. They seem fucking cool, yeah. Which just goes to show you George Soros is awesome. That's a joke. I'm being silly.
Quincy Institute, whose main donors are Charles Koch and George Soros. In the video, So, Trump is right! Russell shared a study with his audience, which was commissioned by the Center for International...
What a surprise, he supports Donald Trump. Wow, I am shocked. You can't see my face, but I am the shocked Pikachu right now. Literally.
Policy. They have received multiple donations worth hundreds of thousands of dollars from George Soros' Open Society Foundation. There's a few observations I want to draw from this knowledge we've just
Today,
gained.
I've been invited by...
is that there's not really any such thing as independent media
or
independent
seen that one before,
voices
Kieran.
in the
good.
way Russell tends to conceptualize them. The word independent is, of course, useful as a shorthand way of separating outlets like Common Dreams from the legacy media. But journalists who write for internet blogs and niche publications are usually still getting funding from somewhere. But there's something even more interesting in all this. The fact that Russell Brand, an avowed opponent of centralist, globalist, corporatist interests, landed on articles authored by people from Soros-funded organizations and thought of those people as upstanding, independent, anti-establishment voices really flies in the face of the idea that globalist billionaires like George Soros are asserting total agenda-driven control over the people and organizations they give money to.
Well, that's what they want you to think, isn't it? George Soros clearly has purposefully planted evildoers in the world to confuse and befuddle Russell Brand. That's how much it is. It's a personal attack on Russell Brand and how awesome a political thinker he is. George Soros, you nefarious bitch.
Instead, it speaks to the idea that Soros gives financial backing to causes he agrees with, but people within those causes have diverging opinions and write whatever they want. I mean, the only alternative explanation would be that Russell is correct about George Soros and other Great Reset advocates funneling money to agencies and journalists explicitly to further war.
Yes, George Soros, praise be upon him. Yes, apologies.
On doctrinarian corporatist agenda, which would make Russell their little flamboyant performing monkey who amplifies that agenda to an unwitting audience. You know, if you're a fan of Russell and you're completely bought in on this Great Reset agenda spreading theory, you just have to pick your poison on this one. Now, going back to Russell's Ukraine war is a resource war video. At this point, people might say, sure, Russell uncritically repeated all of Greg Coleridge's points. And sure, Russell was oblivious to Greg's background of being funded by someone who Russell suspects of advancing an evil globalist agenda. But it was all good information in Greg's article. There's nothing Russell said that was untrue.
We check our sources. We never say anything that can't be backed up.
With this in mind, let's walk through some of the claims made in Greg's article.
This video is called Russell Brand, semicolon. Is it a semicolon? Whatever the fuck that one is. Lying Anarchist by Timber on Toast. It's very good. I'll pop a link in both of the chatterinos for you. Oh, shit. That's not what I meant to do.
US military contractors, Raytheon and Lockheed Martin, are telling their investors...
I've told you once now. I've told you twice. Keep Raytheon's name out of your fucking mouth, bitch. Third time, and I might have to go Chris Rock on you. No, Will Smith. Yeah, you get the idea.
The tensions are good for business.
So, first of all, we have some exceptionally dishonest framing. When Greg says that these military companies were telling investors about the Ukraine tensions being good for business, what he means is they held their public quarterly earnings calls at the end of 2021, as would be expected of any pub...
Good night, Elliot. Enjoy the land of Nod. Or whatever you're up to. You might not be going to sleep. I don't know. Fucking know. I don't know. I don't run your fucking circadian rhythms. Or do I?
Publicly traded company, and on those earnings calls, these weapons manufacturers discussed their earnings. Despite Greg associating their remarks with the war in Ukraine, neither Raytheon nor Lockheed Martin ever even mentioned Ukraine. These calls happened 1 month before there was any Ukraine war.
So it's just a lie then, just a straight up lie. See, that's a good piece of information. That's good research, well done. This is actual, Timber is actually doing journalism here. Good stuff.
To speak about, because Russia hadn't invaded yet. In the call transcripts, you can see that they do talk about a list of world regions which are identified as places of high tension. These are United...
I always get Halliburton and Haribo mixed up. Do not give your children a bag of Halliburton to eat. Don't do that. And don't drop little sweets onto brown kids either. Actually, no, that one's fine. Yeah.
Arab Emirates, Eastern Europe, the South China Sea, the Middle East, the Asia Pacific region, North Korea, Iran, Yemen, Russia, China. There is nothing about a hypothetical invasion of Ukraine being good for business. But that is the exact way Greg is selling it to his readers. There's also a straight up lie in this passage. We're told that General Dynamics boasted that disputes like Ukraine have expanded their bottom line.
While General Dynamics Corporations boasts that past such disputes have expanded their bottom line.
Here's the transcript of the only part of the General Dynamics earnings call where they talk about Ukraine. Listen out for...
By the way, all of the people involved in this, if you're like on the fucking earnings board or whatever of Raytheon, look, you're scum. All of these people are fucking dreadful human beings. Are like the worst kind of garbage. But they're not the... I don't know, world-running super organisations that Russell Brand and his performative fucking clapping monkeys seem to think. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're evil, but they're evil just for profit. They're not trying to run the world. Good night, Leckers. Thanks for stopping by.
Anything which sounds like boasting, which references past such disputes, or which references General Dynamics' bottom line. They are asked,
right? I mean, the Ukraine and what has been going on with Russia has been in the headline. What does that mean for your international land systems business, particularly in Eastern Europe?
And General Dynamics reply,
well, for some time now, the Eastern European demand for combat vehicles has been at an elevated level. But I have to tell you that speculation about the considerable tension in Eastern Europe and any subsequent impact on budgets is just ill-advised given the high threat environment. So we are hopeful for a peaceful resolution, but that is a national security issue for the U.S. and its allies.
There are no words in here that could be interpreted by any rational person as boasting. There is nothing in here about past disputes similar to Ukraine. There is nothing in here about General Dynamics expanding their bottom line. General Dynamics offer no comment on anything like that. They say it's not for them to comment and that they're hopeful for a peaceful resolution. I happen to know where Greg got this claim from. It comes from this article in the publication In These Times, which was published 1.5 months before Greg's came out. It's where Greg also got his information about Lockheed Martin and Raytheon. The publication In These Times used the same words that Greg would go on to paraphrase. General Dynamics is boasting, past returns, such disputes, and they provide excerpts of the exact same call I showed you, which we now know contains no sign of boasting, or returns, or similar past disputes. None of that is in here. And of course, Russell Brand is even more oblivious.
And it's so annoying because there are things, if you're legitimately interested in like the evil of the arms manufacturing companies, you absolutely can find evil shit about them because they're evil people who do benefit from war. They're terrible. So making shit up is really fucking bad and makes it look like you're the one smearing these people and actually they're fine. Like it's really bad, actually. To stop fucking doing that shit.
Yes, even further down the excremental pipeline, drinking Greg's BS through a curly word straw.
Boasts that past such disputes have expanded their bottom line. Can you go one day without hearing about those guys and their skullduggery?
Once something has made its way into his hand written on a piece of paper, he's believing that as factual truth. No questions asked. Greg's article also contains this rather conspicuously outrageous statistic.
Past and current military spending equals 48% of all spent federal tax dollars. So that means
48. No.
Nearly half of all of your taxes is military expenditure.
Wow, half of all my taxes goes to the military. That's surprisingly high. Almost unbelievably high. The source of Greg's claim is this pie chart infographic, which was produced by an organization called War Resisters International. I knew immediately from looking at it that something weird was going on. When you look up military spending as a proportion of the total US budget in other places, Wikipedia says 16%.
Yeah, there you go. That's far more reasonable. Now, I still think that's far too much, but at least it makes sense. It comports with my understanding of reality.
The Congressional Budget Office says a sixth, which will be 16 to 17%. The Center on Budget and Policy Priorities says 13%. The Peter G. Peterson Foundation says 12%. So it's not like we have a mutually agreed figure, but those percentages are all very close to each other. Greg's pie chart had managed to arrive at a figure that was 3 times the size of the largest estimate from any other source. And so I simply could not rest until I'd worked out how they'd done this. The infographic puts the predicted Department of Defense budget at $743 billion, which is in line with the official budget and other sources. Below that is where we begin to see some tenuous extrapolations. Retiree pay, so ex-military people who get a state pension, according to the graph, that is still military spending. Money going to NASA is military spending. Domestic border patrol agents are military spending. Counterterrorism task forces, cybersecurity teams, the FBI, the Secret Service, all military spending. What becomes clear when you look at all the qualifying information is that the creators of this pie chart have taken such a broad view of military spending that anything that is even...
Honestly, they should put in the FDA as well, because like military people have to eat. So the safety of that food is... So the FDA is military spending, and environment, because they drink water as well. That's military. Fact. Housing and urban development. You know who lives in cities? Military. So that's military spending as well. You fucking pricks, man.
Tangentially related to defending American security interests is categorized as a military expense. And so what should be $743 billion just turns into $965 billion. But it's about to get even stranger as we journey over to the left-hand side of the pie chart, which is about past military spending. Here, we are asked to imagine a world in which America had never owned a military at any point in the past, and how much money would America be saving now if it had never owned a military at any point in the past? So, immediately, you can see that veterans benefit.
Kev's mom equals military spending. True. Fuck it, why not? Yeah, true. Oh, you know, my mum takes up nearly 48% of all US tax expenditure.
Is now considered military expenditure. Because if America had never owned a military, there'd be no veterans to have to give benefits to. So if there's some old man who lives on your street and he gets a check from the government, in the eyes of the people who made this pie chart, that is military spending. No different than paying for...
Yeah, exactly. There's no difference between paying for the fucking healthcare costs of some bloke who literally landed on the fucking beaches on D-Day, and Raytheon, like, selling fucking ballistic missiles to Iraq. Bravo. You've outdone yourself. You've outdone yourself, mate. Fucking hell. Honestly, this is the thing. I'm always brought back to that wonderful tweet from Thought Slime, who says, was it, people who go right wing because of left wingers annoying them are weak and pathetic. Because every left winger gets annoyed by left wingers every fucking day. And it's so true. It's so fucking true. The left piss me off every fucking day. But you know what? I'm not out there leaving the left because I've got principles and I'm not a fucking shill piece of shit like certain bonus hole people. I'm just going to call them bonus hole people because it annoys them enormously on TYT or whatever. The people like this on the anti-war left who do crazy ass dumb shit and lie like this are so fucking infuriating because they make us look like total wankers. Make us look like we're not serious fucking people. Fuck off, Kev, you piss me off. Well, that's the thing. The leftist who annoys me more than any other leftist is me. Honestly, I despise myself. So, you know. And I assume I annoy everyone else as well, so, you know. Thought Slime is a weirdo. Thought Slime has some issues, certainly. They do tend to go a little nanas on occasion. But, they're okay. I am okay with them largely. I don't think they're evil or anything. And they make very good videos. You've got the audio issues. Oh, no, I haven't bumped the USB cord in ages. I purposefully moved the thing away from my feet so that I wouldn't kick the USB anymore. When was the... Vogel, no. When was the last time you heard me kick the USB? When was the last time you heard that noise? Doom, doo, doo, doom. When was the last time you heard that shit? I will not have the one very, very small concession to technological literacy on this fucking channel belittled in this way. How long did it take you? Fucking years. It took me literally years.
For a tank to shoot an old man in the head. Even more brazenly, $476 billion have been added for the interest on the national debt, under the extraordinary leap of logic that if America had never ever had a military, it would now have...
Hang on, no. I've been my interest has been piqued by a comment. Hang on a second. Little off topic, but Kamala Harris's campaign is live streaming a Tim Walz event from rally from Arizona and Azeroth tonight. Yes, Azeroth, the planet from World of Warcraft. What the fuck do you mean by that, non-binary? What are you talking about? What? Would you? Is he like in the game? Is he playing the game? Is it an avatar of him that's just like walking about? Is he literally like in front of a keyboard in Arizona, but is also playing in the game? What do you mean? What the sentence you wrote has hurt my brain. Please make the pain go away. Oh God, it's on Twitch as well. Oh no, Tim Walz, I used to respect you, and then you became a Twitch streamer. Oh no. Can we get some fucking Fs in chat? Can we get some Fs in chat for Tim Walz becoming a fucking Twitch streamer? Jesus. How the mighty have fallen. I defended you, Tim. I said you weren't fucking weird. I said you weren't reactionary scum. I said you weren't a gamer. Same thing. Kamala Harris's campaign is live streaming a Tim Walz rally from Arizona and Azeroth tonight. Yes, Azeroth again. This will be the first time that Harris's campaign will stream live gameplay on its Twitch account. The event, which will take place at 6:30. So when's that? That's like now. Is she on now? Hang on a minute. No, I don't want to watch the Kevin Logan channel. It's fucking reactionary scum. Harris. I'm just going to type in Harris, see what comes up. Harris 1? No. Kamala Harris, here we go. If someone wants to gift a sub... No. Kamala Harris, here we go. If someone wants to gift... That was from 2 months ago, so that's not a thing. It says 6:30, right? Which is now, isn't it? 6:30 Eastern Time. Will include a live feed of Walz's Arizona speech with Preheat, a Twitch creator, playing the game. Oh, so Tim Walz isn't playing the game. Okay. Okay. Have I got the time wrong? It's 6:30 Eastern now, right? Twitch.tv/Kamala Harris. Yeah, it's not. Well, it's not. I don't see it now. Yeah, okay. Well, I don't. It's definitely. Okay, right. Time in New York, because that's East Coast, right? So, is 6:50. So, like, where's my fucking event? Oi, dickhead. Where's my fucking event? Pricks.
No debts. So that's how War Resisters International magically turned $743 billion into $1.7 trillion. But you know what? That's still only around 30% of the budget.
No, non-binary, you did this. You promised me in a letter written in blood. Whose blood we don't know. I don't need to find out. What is this? National Debate Party with Walz.
Would increase costs
all over the country. And they're laying out the vice president's vision.
I'm ready to just send myself to Georgia right now. Thank you so much.
Okay, well that's, yeah. 21 hours ago was the last thing. Okay. National Debate Watch Party with Governor Tim Walz. Okay. Well. Yeah. Don't write letters in menstrual blood. Well, that's actually on a point, I suppose, in British politics. That the for some reason they're going to need school kids who are experiencing menstrual pain to prove that they have menstrual pain. I suppose I should look at the actual thing. I'll put menstrual pain UK. That's a very weird thing to say. News. Here we go. This is the one, right? So, period pain proof required for school sick days. Right? And people have been making the rather waggish comment that I'll just throw my period blood at them. Like, what the fuck do you mean? How do you prove you're in pain? The only person who can feel it is the person in pain, right? Fucking mad. Parents have reacted angrily to a school's policy of refusing to authorise sick days related to period pain unless parents prove related medical information. What the actual fuck is wrong with you? Who thought this policy was a good idea? We'd like to be quite invasive about your young child's experience of period, please, so that we can sign off on a sick day. You fucking demented twats. You absolute fucking mutants. Jesus Christ.
So how'd they bring it up to half? It was right at the end of reviewing this chart that I noticed they had pegged the total outlays for 2022 at 3.5 trillion, when the official figure was actually 5 trillion. And here's the cheat code they used. The budget is made up of two separate funds. Federal funds, paid for by income taxes, and trust funds, paid for by payroll taxes. What War Resistance International did was to completely remove trust funds and payroll taxes from this equation.
Removed payroll taxes. Fucking Jesus Christ. Unbelievable. That's so fucking dishonest.
Making the overall amount of money the US spends look smaller, which means that War Resistance International can make the already overinflated military budget seem like an even bigger proportion of the now...
If you cut out half of the fucking funding the US government use, actually it's 63% of spending. Look, what the fuck?
Diminished total. I had to marvel at this, because it was all completely ridiculous, and quite frankly, an outright lie to say that 48% of people's taxes go to the military. And yet the organisation who produced this graphic went to extraordinary effort of including all these little caveats and rationalizations on the sidelines.
Yeah, knowing that most people wouldn't give a fuck and read it or check at all. They're preying on ignorance. Fucking hell. Mad.
To avoid being accused of outright fabrication. And yet we all know that this pie chart is intended to deceive the average unwitting person.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
Who is not going to look past the 48% figure.
Good night,
As
Fogel.
it happens, this is not a...
Good night, Fogel. Enjoy sleep. And also, arse.
Hypothetical concern, because we already know exactly the kind of person who would get taken in by this tacky misinformation.
Does that mean nearly half of all of your taxes is military expenditure?
You know what? I blame George Soros for this. Russell springboards from the stupid claim about taxes to say that all military money actually goes into the pockets of private companies Lockheed Martin and Raytheon.
A significant amount of this military spending is not going into the pockets of soldiers and men and women that are fighting wars and to make sure they've got good kit or, heaven forbid, good care after they've been in combat. The money ends up with Lockheed Martin, Raytheon.
Now,
based. Good. Raytheon deserve all of your money. In fact, don't give me any money in the form of bits and subscriptions and super chats and memberships. Don't do that, okay? Give it all to Raytheon, because I was once accused of being what was the phrase they used? A synthetic leftist in the pay of Raytheon was a thing that someone once genuinely claimed on Twitter. So I thought, fuck it, yeah, go on then, whatever. Yeah, I don't give a fuck. Yeah, Raytheon are awesome. Give money to Raytheon. Like your average person's going to buy a drone strike. But again, you can get 10% off with my code. Kev's Massive Knackers.
We know that in 2022, the US Department of Defense spent $44.5 billion on Lockheed Martin and $25.4 billion on Raytheon. It's a lot of money.
I tried to get someone to gift fucking Kamala Harris a sub, and they didn't.
But not when you look at the overall amount of military spending they did that year, which according to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute was $877 billion. This was the final amount they ended up spending overall, which is different to the initial amount they forecasted in the budget at the start of the year. When you calculate the amount of money spent on Lockheed Martin and Raytheon as a proportion, it's 8% of the total.
A significant amount of this military spending.
Stop. Would we call that a significant amount? Like, if I said I was going to split the profits of my lemonade stand with you, right, and I turned around and gave you 8% of the money, you would feel like you had received a significant amount?
It's not going into the pockets of soldiers and men and women that are fighting wars and to make sure they've got good kit.
The amount spent on military personnel was $167 billion, which was more than double the amount spent on Lockheed Martin and Raytheon combined. In terms of making sure the army had good kit, which... from Russell's gesture, I don't know what kit that is. Is that the hat of a Victorian chimney sweep? As if soldiers, men and women on the front lines are going to be like, yeah, enough with the precision rocket launch.
I have absolutely no idea what Grays presumably is a place in Essex. I've never heard of it. I don't know.
Just from Lockheed Martin, okay? And the enemy detecting radar systems from Raytheon. We don't want those. You're not giving us enough hats. As far as I can see, kit would come under operation and maintenance costs, supplies, materials, and equipment. The US military spent $307 billion on that, which is over 4 times the amount that was spent on Lockheed Martin and Raytheon.
Or, heaven forbid, good care after they've...
Oh, there's Gray's Athletic, isn't there? Yeah, sorry, no, yeah, okay, I've heard of the football team.
been in combat. That's when it's okay to cast them out into the streets and to leave them littering your cities and towns.
So, first of all, just to acknowledge that 30 seconds prior to this, Russell was leveraging a source which framed veteran spending as an inherently negative societal military tax burden to benefit his narrative, and now he's outflanking his own argument from the left to say that society...
It's just Russell Brand arguing with Russell Brand. Love it. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Anyway, on to that bombshell, I'm going to leave it for tonight. We got through about a third of the video, actually slightly more than a third of the video there, so I feel like we made progress. We made progress, chat. We'll have to do it another time though, because I am sleepy. I'm an EP boy, what can I say? Yes. I'll be back tomorrow. I might very well be back with No Justice of the MTGs to watch some what's the phrase I was looking for? Not justice time. Question time. Fuck it, I'm calling it justice time from now on. Why not? Why the heckety flip not? Anyway, yeah, and we'll get through this video very, very slowly. Although, of course, not as slowly as Soviet Storm, because I haven't done a Tanky Tuesday in a very long time. Must do that at the weekend, I think. There's got to be something out there. The tankies are always producing mad shit. I have to have a look. Anyway, who should we send you over to on the do? Fuck me, I can talk. I can talk. But what if you remain a sandy little butthole? Who is going? TYT's going. Lol. The only thing I would send to them would be a bag of shite.
Finger on.
Hey, Ico's going. Fuck yeah. Haven't raided into Ico in fucking ages. Let's go. I definitely cannot sing, but I appreciate that nonetheless. Go and say hello to Ico Rules, who I haven't fucking called with in time. In fucking days. Yeah. Has she lost her tick? Is she not a member? Not a member, what do you call it? Partner anymore? The fuck happened there then? Oh no, that's, well, okay. Yes, anyway, go and say hello to Ico, and I will, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. Stay beautiful, thank you all for your support.